Chapter 369. The 30 demon martial emperors who were charging at Su-Mo paused in their attacks, and had no choice but to defend themselves against the lightning dragon. The way of lightning had a certain effect on their extraterritorial demon chi. Swoosh! Qin, who was supported by the extreme speed power, was as fast as a bolt of lightning. In a flash, he passed through the 30 over martial emperor realm demons. Poof! 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 A total of 12 martial emperor-level devil clansmen were killed by Qin Yu's sword strike earlier. Boundless blood exploded, but not a single drop was wasted. It was all devoured by the skeleton Ghost King. This scene caused the hearts of all the Outer Realm devils to tremble even more, and they were unable to conceal their terror. Crack! Qin Yu, who was about to charge at the ancient demon clansman, suddenly paused. At that moment, there was a seed of providence in Qin Yu's soul. After devouring the luck of more than 10 martial emperor realm demons, it immediately exploded with a loud bang. In the next moment, a light seal, which was about an inch in size, surrendered to Qin Yu's soul. Creation Celestial Seal. Qin Yu's eyes were flickering with a dazzling radiance. According to the records of the heaven-stealing creation skill, once the creation celestial seal was formed, the divine skill would officially be cultivated. From then on, Qin Yu could use the creation celestial seal to use the power of providence to perform many secret skills. For example, treasure hunting, avoiding calamities, and so on. Everything in the world was related to providence. The power of providence could naturally change the trajectory of one's destiny. The more the trajectory was changed, the more the power of providence would be consumed. In fact, if he used it too much, he might even exhaust his origin providence. Die. They did not know why Qin Yu was distracted for a moment. However, the extraterritorial demon clansmen did not show any mercy. They immediately seized the opportunity to kill Qin Yu on the spot. Unfortunately, when they were about 100 feet away from Qin Yu, a mighty ancient seal descended. The attacks of the extraterritorial devils were all blocked by the indestructible Stone Emperor seal. As Qin Yu's cultivation advanced to the martial emperor realm, the imperishable Stone Emperor seal would also undergo a huge change. One could clearly see a blurry figure floating above the indestructible Stone Emperor seal. The power of the indestructible Stone Emperor seal came from that blurry figure. Qin Yu knew that this was the projection of the Stone Emperor. In the current Sky Emperor Palace, only the immortal Stone Emperor seal could summon the Stone Emperor's shadow. After the Stone Emperor's silhouette appeared, a vast pressure suppressed the extraterritorial devil clansmen who had seized the opportunity to attack. Chila! Qin Yu regained his senses and his figure flashed. A circle of blood-red sword light tore through the void. Those Outer Realm devils didn't even have time to react before they were killed by Qin Yu with a single sword strike. The battle had just begun, and there were already 20 to 30 martial Emperor Realm demons who had lost their lives to Qin Yu. The number of extraterritorial devil clansmen was reduced to 50. Of the 50 extraterritorial devil clansmen, more than 20 of them were suppressed by the skeleton Ghost King. There were still more than 10 extraterritorial devil clansmen guarding the ancient devil clansmen. Now, there were only 10 extraterritorial devil clansmen blocking Qin Yu's path. The 10 extraterritorial devil clansmen had obviously lost their fighting spirit and were even trembling. There was no spiritual being that wasn't afraid of death. Now, the 10 extraterritorial devil clansmen were shrouded in a true sense of death. Swoosh! The extreme speed Great Tao exploded, and the 10 extraterritorial devil clansmen only felt a ray of light flashing across their eyes. In the next moment, their heads flew into the sky, and their demonic souls were crushed. After Qin Yu used the green dragon battle the heavens, his combat strength was still able to fight against enemies of a higher cultivation level. Not to mention these martial Emperor Realm demons whose cultivation levels were lower than his. The plan is terminated. Let's attack together. When the ancient devil clansman saw this, he felt a strong sense of danger and immediately stopped inscribing the demonic inscriptions. Frightening demonic might burst forth from his body as he slapped his palm onto the inscriptions. Immediately, countless demonic inscriptions floated around him and condensed into an overflowing demonic figure. The ancient devil clansman's cultivation increased rapidly. From rank 4 Martial Emperor, he immediately reached rank 6 Martial Emperor. Those were originally meant to protect him. The extraterritorial devil clansmen's auras also increased dramatically. They all went all out and charged toward Chinyu. Chinyu was not afraid in the slightest. He faced them head-on. Demonic figures covered the sky, and crimson swords pierced through the sky. Secret techniques and divine abilities collided violently in the sky. The great battle caused the ground to crack for over 10,000 miles. It was as if an earthquake had occurred. The battle started quickly and ended even more quickly. The dozen extraterritorial devil clansmen that had surrounded Chinyu all died. Even the ancient devil clansman with boundless demonic might was unable to resist Chinyu and was killed on the spot. This is soul power? However, after Chinyu used the soul-devouring curse, he was astonished to discover something. That ancient devil clansman was only an incarnation and not his actual body. After his incarnation was killed by Chinyu, the trace of soul power also disappeared. Chinyu could only vaguely sense the location of his actual body. Chinyu raised his eyebrows slightly. A mere incarnation had the strength of a rank 6 Martial Emperor. In that case, how frightening would his actual body be? After pondering for a moment, Chinyu immediately decided to find the ancient devil clansman's actual body. It was extremely difficult to encounter the ancient devil clansman in the heaven domain. If he missed this opportunity, Chinyu would have to go deep into the extraterritorial realm to find the ancient devil clansman. At this moment, the battle on the skeleton Ghost King's side had also ended. All of the extraterritorial devil clansmen had been killed. The skeleton Ghost King opened his arms, and divine desolate runes appeared all over his body. However, at this moment, the divine desolate runes changed and turned into mysterious wild beasts. Those mysterious wild beasts opened their mouths. Immediately, all of the extraterritorial devil clansmen in the deep pit were crazily devoured by the skeleton Ghost King. The density of the extraterritorial devil clansman's blood covered the skeleton Ghost King. Kacha! After a dozen breaths of time, the sound of bones colliding could be heard. Chinyu looked over and saw that the skeleton Ghost King had grown to a height of 15 meters after devouring all of the extraterritorial devil clansman's blood. The bones on his body were sturdy and strong. Although it was only a skeleton, it looked like it was filled with terrifying power. The skeleton Ghost King had finally broken through the boundary of rank 5 Martial Emperor and reached rank 6 Martial Emperor in one go. Let's go. Chinyu dispersed the lightning formation and immediately left with the skeleton Ghost King. With sure Jingtian strength, he could easily suppress the extraterritorial devil clansmen in the ancient city. Chinyu did not go over to help. He was more curious about the plan between the ancient devil clan, the Iron Demon clan, and the Fire Demon clan. Chinyu had used a special method to refine the souls of the extraterritorial devil clansmen. He only knew that the two extraterritorial devil clansmen were cooperating with the ancient devil clan to inscribe a demonic formation underground. Invading the 4 cities was just to attract the attention of the Sky Emperor Palace's cultivators. However, the Iron Demon clan and the Fire Demon clan did not know the purpose of this plan. Chapter 370. The only one who knew was the ancient demon who could inscribe demon curses. While Chinyu and the skeleton Ghost King were moving underground in a certain direction. Over 100,000 miles away from Chinyu, there was also an ancient city in that direction. At this moment, a great battle was taking place in the ancient city. The young generation of the Heavenly Imperial Palace and the Iron Demons were fighting fiercely. Beneath the ancient city, there was an underground volcano. At this moment, a figure surrounded by demon chi in the volcano suddenly raised his head. That figure was none other than the ancient demon. 4 huge demon curse arrays were engraved in the void around the ancient demon. 2 of the 4 demon curse arrays were shining with dazzling light. One was dim, and the other was completely broken. The location of that broken devil formation array was precisely the direction that Qin Yu was rushing from. The demon array is broken? Something happened over there? Beside the ancient devil, there are dozens of iron and fire elemental devils. The cultivation levels of these devils were the same as the devils that Qin Yu had encountered before. They were all at the martial emperor level. My demon soul incarnation was destroyed. The ancient demon stood up with a gloomy look in his eyes. So, the plan was exposed. Among those iron demons, the expression of an iron demon flashing with faint silver light changed. The other extraterritorial demons were also in an uproar, and they kept talking among themselves. We must have been exposed. The ancient demon nodded slightly, and a cold, murderous look flashed in his gloomy eyes. For this plan, they had infiltrated the 4 black tortoise realms thousands of times and paid a heavy price to figure out the boundary point of this martial world. They didn't expect that the plan would be discovered at the critical moment when it was about to succeed. What should we do now? Continue to set up the array? Or retreat? Among the fire demons, a demon with a face faintly condensed in demon flames asked. The Heavenly Imperial Palace is a top force in the spiritual state. Once they know, they will definitely send Emperor Realm Masters here. We have to retreat, but we can't leave so easily. The ancient demon's gaze landed on the 4 demonic formations around him. 2 demon arrays had been successfully set up, and they couldn't leave any traces behind. Go! Those iron demons and fire elemental demons understood and immediately left with their clansmen. Only the ancient demon was left behind. At the same time, all the demons in the 4 black tortoise world seemed to have received some sort of order. They no longer fought with the Sky Imperial Palace's martial artists and retreated one after another. Devouring formation. After all of the extraterritorial devils had left, the ancient devil quickly formed hand seals. Ancient curses emerged from his glabella and merged into the 2 glowing abyss devil formations. The power of the 2 demonic formations was becoming more and more frightening. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the underground volcano seemed to have suddenly exploded. Flames and molten lava burst out in all directions. However, the instant they came into contact with the 2 demonic arrays, all of the magma was completely devoured by the 2 demonic arrays. The aura emitted by the 2 demonic arrays grew increasingly frightening. The eruption of lava lasted for more than 6 hours before it stopped. Following that, an astonishing amount of demonic aura emerged from the bottom of the volcano. Any Emperor Realm Master of the spiritual state would be familiar with the demonic aura that was filled with evil aura. This was the demonic aura that filled the extraterritorial battlefield. It's a pity that I can't form 3 arrays. Otherwise, I could definitely give you a big gift. A sinister smile appeared on the ancient demon's face as a demonic bone surrounded by demonic runes appeared in his hand. He exerted force in his hand and crushed the demonic bone, which then merged into the 2 glowing abyss devil formations. Whoosh! After the preparations were completed, the ancient demon's figure flashed and disappeared. After several dozen breaths of time, the 2 glowing abyss devil formations expanded. Every mysterious demonic rune had expanded by several times, and it was still growing. It caused the 2 demonic formations to swell and distort. Finally, when the expansion of the demonic runes reached its limit, the 2 demonic arrays that had absorbed the endless lava of the volcano suddenly exploded. However, there was no shocking aura. It was just quiet in the void. This aura, at this moment, Qin Yu, who was gradually approaching the underground volcano, was shocked. He immediately used his extreme speed Dao and flashed away. Rumble. Almost at this moment, a gigantic pitch-black demonic pillar shot up into the sky and pierced through the clouds. Destructive demonic aura swept out and destroyed everything within a radius of several hundred miles. The ancient city also disappeared without a trace. Then, a terrifying wave of demonic aura spread out and eroded the world's spirit chi of the 4 black tortoise world. Extraterritorial demon chi. Qin Yu emerged from the ground and was very surprised to see the demonic pillar that destroyed everything within a radius of several hundred miles. The extraterritorial battlefield was vast and boundless, but resources were scarce. The biggest reason was that the demonic aura of the extraterritorial battlefield could erode everything that had world spirit chi. Only pure demonic aura and divine herbs could survive in the extraterritorial demon chi. Now, the extraterritorial demon cultivators had drawn the extraterritorial demon chi over. Did they want to use the extraterritorial demon chi to turn the four-black tortoise world into an extraterritorial demon world? After taking a look, Qin Yu's gaze moved away from the demonic pillar in front of him and looked in another direction. In that direction, there was also a huge wave of demonic aura that shot up into the sky. If he remembered correctly, that ancient city had been invaded by the extraterritorial demon race before. Qin Yu fell into deep thought. If the group of demonic cultivators that he had encountered before had succeeded, there would be 3 of them. No, if the ancient city that they had teleported to had also had 4 demonic aura pillars, wouldn't that mean that there would be 3 of them? Boundary points. A thought flashed through Qin Yu's mind, and he understood. The extraterritorial demon race wanted to destroy the 4 boundary points of the 4 black tortoise worlds. Once all the boundary points were destroyed, the martial world would completely collapse and turn into a chaotic void. At that time, even if the Heavenly Emperor Palace sent martial emperors, they would not be able to seal the extraterritorial demon chi and would have to abandon the martial world. However, what benefits would that bring to the extraterritorial demon race? What was in the 4 black tortoise worlds that was worth the extraterritorial demon race's attention? Strange. Half of the world spirit chi of the martial world has disappeared? No, it's already more than half. Qin Yu, who was in deep thought, suddenly changed his expression. He carefully sensed it and found that it was not an illusion. At this moment, almost 60% of the world spirit chi of the 4 black tortoise worlds had been sucked away. Such a heaven-defying method shocked Qin Yu. Even the top Emperor Realm Master could not absorb 60% of the world spirit chi of the martial world in an instant. This was not something that could be achieved with one's ability. What the hell were the extraterritorial demon race doing? Chapter 371. Suddenly, Qin Yu seemed to have noticed something and looked in a certain direction. Whoosh! In a flash, Qin Yu and the skeleton Ghost King retracted their auras and burrowed into the ground, heading in that direction. This is quite a spectacular sight. At the center of the 2 demonic chi light pillars was the peak of a mountain. The ancient demon, the silver-striped metal demon, and the fire elemental demon were looking at the scene created by the 2 demonic chi light pillars. With these 2 demonic chi light pillars, the people from the Imperial Palace will not be able to find the Divine Power Altar in a short time. The ancient demon race being spoke. This was the reason why he had detonated the demonic chi light pillars after his plan had failed. Bam! All of a sudden, a stone wall somewhere on the mountain suddenly exploded. A beam of blood-red light shot out as fast as lightning. A sneak attack. The 3 ancient demon clans, 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 demon clan immediately retreated. However, at this moment, a surge of chaotic energy appeared and affected the 3 of them. Break! The ancient demon's face changed, and he shouted as he tore the air with his hands. The chaotic force around him was torn apart, and he retreated in a flash. The silver-striped metal demon, who was close to him, also managed to break free. Chila, only the fire elemental demon, was unable to free himself and was killed by the demon culling sword. His demon soul was destroyed by Qin Yu. Boom! Almost instantly, the skeleton Ghost King flashed out of the void and punched out. The vast fist radiance exploded, and the ancient demon and silver-striped metal demon, who were retreating, were forced back by the punch. Qin Yu and the skeleton Ghost King blocked the ancient demon and silver-striped metal demon from the front and back. A martial emperor can pass through the demon god's restriction without making a sound. The ancient demon and silver-striped metal demon's faces darkened. Even with their cultivation, they did not realize that someone had sneaked up on them. If they had reacted a little slower, they would have been killed like the fire elemental demon. Whoosh! Whoosh! Qin Yu and the Skeleton Ghost King didn't care about their surprise and rushed out together. Qin Yu faced off against the ancient Devil Clan, while the Skeleton Ghost King faced off against the silver-marked Iron Devil Clan. Qin Yu swung his sword, and the blood-red sword light slashed out continuously, cutting a long crack in the void. Do you think you'll be able to succeed in your sneak attack like just now? The ancient demon's eyes were cold as he roared, and a majestic devil curse swept out. His cultivation had reached the peak of rank 7 Martial Emperor. He was only a step away from becoming a rank 8 Martial Emperor. Boom! Boom! Qin Yu brandished his sword and slashed at the ancient Devil Clan seal. The two of them fought intensely in the void. Both of them unleashed their killer moves and went all out. The void exploded violently as spatial cracks spread out. Although Qin Yu had used the Azure Dragon Battle the Heavens, his cultivation had only increased to rank 6 Martial Emperor. However, by relying on the divine abilities and secret techniques that he possessed, he was able to fight against peak rank 7 Martial Emperors without being at a disadvantage in the slightest. In fact, the more he fought, the fiercer he became. This brat, exactly who is he? The ancient Devil Clan's ancient demon was incomparably shocked. He had never seen such a demon-level genius before. It was already shocking enough for a rank 1 Martial Emperor to be able to reach rank 6 Martial Emperor after using a secret technique. And now, Chu Feng, a rank 6 Martial Emperor, was actually able to unleash battle power on par with him, a peak rank 7 Martial Emperor. This was simply too shocking. Bang! Bang! The battle between the Skeleton Ghost King and the ancient Devil Clan's ancient demon was also in full swing. The Skeleton Ghost King was a puppet to begin with. Now, his cultivation had reached rank 6 Martial Emperor. On top of that, the great desolate beast marks on the barbarian god emperor's body had formed countless mysterious mutated beasts. This allowed the Skeleton Ghost King to faintly possess the power to fight enemies of a higher cultivation. It was evenly matched with the peak rank 6 Martial Emperor silver-marked Iron Demon. Whoosh! While Qin Yu and the Skeleton Ghost King were fighting against the ancient Devil Clan's ancient demon and the silver-marked Iron Demon, the Emperor Realm, exalted from the heavenly imperial palace, appeared before a towering demonic pillar. After he appeared, he did not hesitate and directly charged into the demonic pillar, entering the entrance of the underground volcano. Seal. Boundless and boundless Tao energy began to condense. At this moment, the entire world's energy seemed to have gathered and turned into an enormous sealing array. Then, the sealing array entered the underground volcano. Immediately, the demonic chi from the outer realm that was rushing out endlessly was sealed. After that, the Emperor Realm Exalted arrived before the second pillar of demonic chi and sealed it in the same way. What's going on? Why has the martial world's world spirit energy decreased by 60%? After carefully sensing the situation, the Emperor Realm Exalted Elder's expression became extremely unsightly. When the two pillars of demonic chi erupted, he immediately rushed over with his full speed. From start to finish, only several dozen breaths of time had passed. In such a short period of time, no matter how strong the corrosive power of the demonic chi was, it should be impossible for it to be this strong. 60% of the martial world spirit energy was already indescribable. Although he was extremely puzzled, the Emperor Realm Exalted Elder did not linger on this matter. He raised his head and looked at the sky. The demonic chi from the outer realm that had been dyed black by the corrosion immediately flew into the sky and rushed towards the demonic chi. Immediately, the demonic chi from the outer realm that was originally spreading in all directions and corroding everything that its spirit was quickly sealed. It was constantly being sealed. Unfortunately, the demonic chi from the two pillars of demonic chi was too much. Even with his Emperor Realm cultivation, It was difficult for him to seal it all in a short period of time. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the battle at the peak of the mountain was still ongoing. The battle between Qin Yu and the other three was getting more and more violent. If not for the fact that the ancient demon had set up a demon barrier around Qin Yu's mountain, the Emperor Realm Exalted Elder would have sensed it long ago. 9 Nether Purgatory. With a thought, Qin Yu covered his body with pitch-black dragon scales. The pitch-black purgatory space that sealed one's divine sense spread out and shrouded the ancient demon. Qin Yu's figure flashed and charged out forcefully. The demon's slaughtering sword in his hand had been replaced by the Sky Splitter Spear. The demon's slaughtering sword was not as effective against the ancient demon as it was against the demon from the outer realm. Therefore, Qin Yu switched to the Sky Splitter Spear that he was familiar with. At the sharp tip of the spear, an extremely terrifying slaughter aura condensed. Demon Rune Wave. The ancient demon was shocked, and his face turned solemn. Immediately, he formed a seal with both hands, and a special demon rune wave spread out in a circle shape, causing the void to tremble slightly. The moment Qin Yu, who had used a destructive killer move, came into contact with the demon rune wave, the ancient demon sensed it. At this moment, Qin Yu's long spear pierced through the air like a dragon. A destructive slaughter aura swept out, as if it wanted to slaughter all living beings in the world. This brat, the ancient demon, turned pale with fright and immediately retreated rapidly. As he retreated, he formed a seal with both hands and summoned a huge demon steel, which fiercely collided with the Sky Splitter Spear. Break! A chilling, murderous intent flashed in Qin Yu's eyes as he moved his mind. The Divine Dragon Ancient Seal, the Immortal Execution Ancient Diagram, and the God Execution Array trembled. 10 strands of God Execution intent condensed and erupted along with the Sky Splitter Spear. Chapter 372. Kacha. With a loud cracking sound, the gigantic devil steel that the ancient demon clan had summoned exploded. How is this possible? The ancient demon race's pupils shrank, and his hair stood on end. The huge demon steel was a true emperor artifact and was famous for its defensive power. But in Qin Yu's hands, it exploded with a single blow. This was simply not something that a martial emperor could do. Boom! While the ancient demon clan was still in shock, a destructive killing intent swept through the entire purgatory space like a torrent. The defense set up by the ancient demon clan was destroyed by the murderous aura as easily as crushing dry weeds. Without even a moment of resistance, the ancient demon was killed. Soul-devouring curse. But just as the ancient demon race was affected by the God Legion killing intent, Qin Yu formed a seal with both hands and shot out a finger seal. The ancient demon race's Emperor Soul was immediately suppressed and swept out. Using 10 bursts of God Legion killing intent at once is still too much. Qin Yu clenched his right hand. The 10 bursts of God Legion killing intent caused his entire right arm to hurt. If he had not cultivated the divine dragon tyrant body and reached the martial emperor realm, if that was the case, the 10 streams of killing intent from the gods would have completely destroyed his right arm. After all, in his previous life, Qin Yu had only gradually mastered the killing intent of the god punishing array when he reached the emperor realm. He looked at the emperor realm elder, who was suppressing the demon chi in the distance. Qin Yu's figure flashed, and his spear turned into a blood sword. Together with the skeleton ghost king, he attacked the silver-patterned iron demon race. That was because the iron demon race's defense was more than 10 times stronger than ordinary iron demons. But under Qin Yu's demon slaughtering sword and the skeleton ghost king's joint attack, the silver-patterned iron demon race was defeated. After the battle, Qin Yu did not stay any longer and left the mountain. Inside a certain canyon, Qin Yu was sitting cross-legged. He was currently refining the soul of that ancient demon clan's emperor soul. Not long after, Qin Yu arrived at the ancient devil clan's ancestral realm, the location of the endless devil domain. Just as Qin Yu guessed before, after the primordial upheaval war, the primordial demon tribe had moved the entire boundless demon realm into an empty space. The entrance was in the extraterritorial devil realm. Qin Yu carefully gathered information about the ancient demon clan, then swallowed and refined it. From the information he had obtained, if one wanted to go to the endless demon domain, one had to be at least an Emperor Realm Master. That was because the boundless demon domain had become the gathering place of the ancient demon clan. Although there weren't many ancient demon clans left, there were still many Emperor Realm Masters. Before reaching the Emperor Realm, going to the endless demon domain was no different from courting death. As for the plan between the ancient demon clan and the extraterritorial demon clan, Qin Yu was unaware of it. The moment his soul was sealed, the ancient demon tried to detonate his sovereign soul. Although it was sealed by Qin Yu in time, countless memories were destroyed. Qin Yu only knew that many demon clan masters from the extraterritorial demon clan seemed to be involved in this plan. There would probably be a big movement from the extraterritorial demon clan. Qin Yu didn't care too much about the movements of the ancient demon clan and the extraterritorial demon clan. The extraterritorial demon clan had been coveting the 9 provinces of the heaven domain for a long time. Countless battles had been fought during the invasion. After so many years, they hadn't succeeded. Even if the extraterritorial demon clan really made a move, the heaven domain would be able to handle it. Moreover, regardless of whether the heaven domain could handle it, with Qin Yu's current cultivation, he wouldn't be able to handle it. He couldn't get involved in this matter at all. He wasn't the dragon god emperor realm master of the past. If the sky fell, there would naturally be those higher up to hold it up. For Qin Yu, there were 2 most important things now. One was to find the dragon clan, and the other was to plunder their luck. The more dragons he subdued, the faster his cultivation would recover. The stronger the luck he plundered, the better his luck would be. However, although he didn't understand the purpose of the extraterritorial demon clan, from the ancient demon clan, Qin Yu didn't only know the location of the boundless demon realm. He also knew the reason why the heaven and earth spiritual chi in the 4 black tortoise realm had disappeared by 60%. This news had caused Qin Yu to be quite interested. At the moment when Qin Yu was killing that ancient devil clan member, on a desolate continent, an unknown distance away from the 4 black tortoise realm, the expression of a burly man with a ferocious demon seal on his face suddenly changed. "What's wrong?" Beside the man with the demon seal, a handsome man in white clothes asked. Something happened to Xing Xiao. His emperor's spirit flame was extinguished. The man with the demon seal said indifferently, without the slightest fluctuation. Those who didn't know would think that he was talking about someone he didn't want to kill. However, the ancient devil clansman that Qin Yu had killed was actually his younger brother. Xing Xiao's mission was in the territory of the Heavenly Imperial Palace. Was it discovered by the Heavenly Imperial Palace? The voice of the handsome man in white clothes was a little surprised, but that was all. Luckily, the Heavenly Imperial Palace was only a trial site. If it wasn't discovered, it could be used as a backup plan. Even if it was discovered, it wouldn't be a big deal. The man with the demon seal said, "The deployment of the 9 prefectures is basically complete. When are they going to make their move?" The handsome man in white clothes changed the topic. Compared to their entire plan, this mistake was insignificant. They'll probably start the plan when those powerhouses wake up. The man with the demon seal said, "There are rumors that they've been in contact with that person from the blood demon continent." The man in white clothes pondered for a while and said, "Isn't it said that the blood demon can't leave the seal of the blood demon continent?" The eyelids of the man with the demon seal trembled. That blood demon was an existence that had survived from the ancient era. Whether it was the 9 prefectures or the outer realm, there was probably no other person like him. It's not clear yet, but if the rumors are true, then that person from the blood demon continent should have found a way to avoid the heavenly Tao reincarnation. The man in white clothes said, "Everyone had a cycle of life and death, unless they could continuously break through. But that person from the blood demon continent had a technique to deceive the heavens. He sealed himself in the blood demon continent and avoided the heavenly Tao reincarnation, living one life after another. Logically speaking, the Blood Demon continent should be an absolute forbidden area. But that Blood Demon didn't forbid people from entering the Blood Demon continent. No one knew what he was planning. If that person from the Blood Demon continent really has a way to leave the Blood Demon continent, then the end of the 9 prefectures will truly come. The man with the demon seal revealed a cold smile. If their clan hadn't hidden in the outer realm, they would have been exterminated by the 9 prefectures. That was why they had joined forces with the true demon race in the outer realm to take revenge on the heaven realm. At this moment, in the 4 black tortoise realm, whoosh, Chinyu flashed through the air and flew toward a certain area in the martial realm. 2 hours later, Chinyu arrived at a deathly silent mountain range. This mountain range was as silent as a graveyard. There was no sound at all. When he saw the mountain range, Chinyu immediately flew down and used the earth-burrowing technique to approach it. But he didn't step into the mountain range. Instead, he set up a huge formation around it. Chapter 373. Break. After setting up the spirit formation, Chinyu walked to the edge of the mountain range. He extended his left hand, and the spirit formation plate in his palm started to shine. Immediately, the space where Chinyu's left hand touched started to ripple like water. Mysterious ancient runes appeared one after another. However, those ancient runes were the demon race's ancient runes. At the moment when those devil clan's ancient marks appeared, the scene in front of Chinyu immediately changed. The mountain range that was originally undulating had turned into a deep valley over 1,000 miles wide. This mountain range was actually an enormous illusion formation. Over 100 ancient altars were scattered throughout the deep valley. Above those altars, there were countless mysterious and profound demonic runes spreading out, forming a ceiling formation. In the center of the grand ceiling formation, the vast ocean of natural spiritual energy had completely liquefied, surging like waves. That's right, the natural spiritual energy had turned into a vast ocean. Countless mysterious crystals were forming on their own at the bottom of the sea. At this moment, there were several tens of people collecting those mysterious crystals. They were the Iron Demon Clansmen and the Fire Essence Demon Clansmen. Although their plan to shatter the 4 Black Tortoise Realm had failed, the ancient Era's Demon Clansmen had not given up. Using their extraordinary methods, they had plundered close to 60% of the 4 Black Tortoise Realm's natural spiritual energy. Who is it? That's the symbol of the Heavenly Imperial Palace. Oh no, the spirit formation has been broken by the Heavenly Imperial Palace. Wait, it seems like he's alone. The extraterritorial demon clansmen were all astonished to see Chinyu. However, they soon regained their senses. He was only a rank 1 martial emperor. Even if he had discovered them, he would not be able to do anything. Quickly finish him off and set up the spirit formation again. A rank 5 martial emperor coldly ordered a fire essence demon clansman. Then, his voice came to an abrupt stop. Chinyu stepped into the deep valley with large strides. Then, runes filled the air. The spirit formation that had been broken by Chinyu was restored to its original appearance of a mountain range. What is he planning to do? The extraterritorial demon clansmen were all startled. They did not understand Chinyu's intention. Not only did he not inform the Heavenly Imperial Palace of their whereabouts, but he also restored the illusion formation. Was he planning to continue concealing them? Whoosh! Suddenly, Chinyu moved. His aura broke through the clouds, shattering the heavens. His cultivation of rank 1 martial emperor directly soared to rank 6 martial emperor. At the same time, a white light flashed, and the skeleton ghost king appeared, charging out with a mighty aura. 2 rank 6 martial emperors. Stop them. We can't let them destroy the altar. Even if they are rank 6 martial emperors, there are only 2 of them. There's nothing to be afraid of. Attack. The extraterritorial devils recovered from their shock. All of them unleashed their terrifying demonic auras as they joined forces with Chao Chinyu and the Skeleton Ghost King to suppress them. Rumble. An earth-shaking battle immediately broke out. Qin Yu and the Skeleton Ghost King were fighting against dozens of people each, but they were still powerful and invincible. One after another, the extraterritorial devils died at their hands. The battle only lasted for a mere half an hour before it came to an end. In the great battle, many devils still wanted to escape, but outside this illusion array, Qin Yu had long laid down a barrier. They simply didn't have the chance to escape, and running would only cause them to die faster. However, at the final moment, the actions of the two leaders of the Iron Demon Clan and the Fire Demon Clan puzzled Qin Yu. The two of them didn't surrender, nor did they fight to the death. Instead, they destroyed the altars. Although Qin Yu didn't know the intentions of the extraterritorial devils, he naturally wouldn't let them do as they wished. In a few breaths' time, all of the devils were killed. After the battle, the Skeleton Ghost King frantically absorbed the vital energy of the devils, and its cultivation increased. Qin Yu stepped into the center of the altar and used a secret technique to sense it. Qin Yu was sure that the vast sea of spiritual energy was formed by the dense spiritual energy of heaven and earth. 60% of the spiritual energy that had disappeared from the four black tortoise realm should have gathered here. However, what interested Qin Yu were the mysterious crystals. Although the crystals were formed by the vast spiritual energy of heaven and earth, there was an extremely strange power in them. The power wasn't the great way of heaven and earth, nor was it the martial way's true origin, nor was it the power of the extraterritorial devils. Could this be ancient divine power? Qin Yu crushed a crystal, and immediately a trace of golden divine light flowed out. The corner of Qin Yu's eyes twitched. He was shocked to find that the power contained in the crystal was divine power. What was divine power? That was a power that could only be cultivated by the gods of the ancient era. The extraterritorial devils could actually cultivate divine power? No wonder. Qin Yu looked at the altars that had been destroyed, and there were only a dozen of them left. He finally understood why the devils wanted to completely destroy the altars before they died. The fact that these altars contained divine power was definitely a big secret of the extraterritorial devil clan. Could it be that this was the secret that the ancient devil clan wanted to hide, even if they had to detonate their sovereign soul? Thinking of this, Qin Yu immediately kept the remaining 14 altars and went back to study them. Then, Qin Yu looked at the divine power crystals. After pondering for a while, Qin Yu waved his hand. Boom, boom, boom. A series of densely packed explosions rang out. All the divine power crystals exploded, turning into billowing divine power and spiritual energy, and returned to the spiritual energy of the void. Then, Qin Yu formed a seal with his hands. He consumed a large amount of dragon aura to control the divine dragon ancient seal, and opened the origin dragon world of the dragon soul. The mighty purple lightning divine dragon and golden heaven incinerating dragon appeared. There's not much time left. Hurry up and absorb the spiritual energy. Qin Yu called out and sat cross-legged in the air. He circulated the immemorial battle dragon art and madly absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Nearly 60% of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered here in the four black tortoise realms. It was vast and terrifying. Although Qin Yu had a divine body that was 55 times faster, he could not absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in a short time. That was why he summoned the purple lightning divine dragon and golden heaven incinerating dragon. If the Emperor Realm Masters of the Imperial Palace arrived, they might disperse the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. After all, the martial world had not only lost 60% of its spiritual energy, but it had also been eroded by the massive amount of demon chi from the extraterritorial lands. In terms of the level of the martial arts world, it was already a great loss of vitality. If they wanted to completely recover, it would probably take hundreds of years. For the Imperial Palace, it was equivalent to the martial world being half destroyed. With insufficient spiritual energy, the growth of spirit herbs and spirit stones in the martial world would be extremely slow. It would not be able to contribute resources to the Imperial Palace. However, Qin Yu did not care much about the future of the martial world. Since the extraterritorial land's demon race had helped and gathered the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, Qin would not let go of this opportunity. What kind of power is this? After the golden heaven incinerating dragon appeared, it immediately left the area of divine power and spiritual energy and said in a disgusted tone, "Ancient divine power." The purple lightning divine dragon was also extremely repulsed, but had lived far longer than the golden heaven incinerating dragon, so it recognized the divine power. Chapter 374. What's wrong? Qin asked curiously. Qin knew how much spirit chi the purple thunder divine cloud dragon and the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon needed. Now that there was such a vast amount of spirit chi in front of them, they didn't react at all. The divine power in the spirit chi makes me very uncomfortable. It seems to be interfering with my bloodline. I'm afraid it's not ordinary divine power. The purple thunder divine cloud dragon said. Is it? Qin sensed it carefully. The dragon bloodline in his body didn't have such a feeling. The divine power in the spirit chi had been completely refined by the battle dragon true origin. Qin cultivation was increasing at an alarming rate. Just in case, it's better not to absorb it. The purple thunder divine cloud dragon advised. Do you feel anything about the dragon chi and divine power? Qin put the purple thunder divine cloud dragon and the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon into the chaotic dragon realm. He looked at the skeleton ghost king, whose bones were glowing after absorbing the blood chi. I don't feel anything. The skeleton ghost king shook its head after absorbing the blood chi. However, the skeleton ghost king wasn't interested in absorbing the spirit chi. Its combat power came from the strength of the barbarian god emperor's body. It didn't take the path of spirit refinement. No matter how much spirit chi it absorbed, it couldn't strengthen the barbarian god emperor's body. Qin thought for a while and started cultivating again. After all, both the spirit chi and divine power had been completely integrated by the battle dragon true origin. Even if the divine power was strange, it didn't matter. After cultivating for a while, Qin opened his eyes and stood up helplessly. This deep valley was at least 1,000 miles wide. The entire space of the Omphalos was filled with dense, tide-like liquid spiritual energy. Even with Qin terrifying cultivation speed, it would take at least half a month for him to absorb all the spirit chi. Sky swallowing array. After thinking for a while, Qin eyes lit up and he opened his hands. Mysterious spirit inscriptions rose from the spirit array disc in his left hand. Godly light flickered on his right palm as he executed the heavens war emperor transformation. An ancient cauldron appeared. He clasped his hands together, and the ancient cauldron immediately fused with the profound spiritual patterns. Shortly after, Qin let out a low roar. The ancient furnace formation rotated and flew into the sky. The lid of the ancient furnace opened, and a heaven-devouring power erupted from within. In an instant, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth that filled the deep valley was crazily devoured by the ancient furnace. That devouring speed was like a giant whale swallowing the sea. The heaven-swallowing formation swallowed up the heaven-swallowing formation at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than a quarter of an hour, the massive amount of spiritual chi in the entire deep valley was completely devoured by the sky-swallowing array. Qin immediately sealed the heaven-devouring cauldron into the ancient seal of the dragon god. Then, he left the valley with the skeleton ghoul king. Shun Feng, you're finally back. When Qin returned to the city, Shi Jingtian heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Qin had returned safely. Qin safety had caused the upper echelons of the heavenly palace to inquire about it several times. However, the disciples of the other heavenly emperors had a solemn atmosphere. I'm fine. Qin shook his head slightly. He could roughly guess the reason for the solemn atmosphere among the disciples of the heavenly palace. The explosion of the 2 demon chi light pillars had destroyed 2 cities. The disciples of the heavenly emperor palace who had gone to reinforce the 2 cities had most likely not returned. The invasion of the extraterritorial demon race had thoroughly angered the Heavenly Emperor Palace. The Heavenly Emperor Palace had sent 10 Emperor Realm Masters to investigate. As for the extraterritorial demon race's plan to extract 60% of the world's spiritual chi and destroy the martial world, Qin Yu thought about it and did not inform the Heavenly Emperor Palace. This time, the extraterritorial demon race had sent over 100 martial emperors. There were 6th grade and 7th grade martial emperors among them. With Qin Yu's strength, under normal circumstances, even with the help of the Skeleton Ghoul King, it would be impossible for him to exterminate the extraterritorial demon race. Therefore, once he opened his mouth, regardless of whether he was telling the truth or lying, Qin Yu would be asking for trouble. It was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. Anyway, the extraterritorial demon race had caused such a big commotion this time. The Heavenly Emperor Palace should be vigilant and would not give the extraterritorial demon race any chance to exploit. After all the disciples who had come to train and were still alive were found and brought back, Qin Yu, Shi Jingtian, and the others were all sent back to the Heavenly Emperor Palace. In the following period, except for the Emperor Realm Elders, the 4 Black Tortoise world had basically become a forbidden area. As for the reason, the Heavenly Emperor Palace had also found out that the extraterritorial demon race wanted to destroy the 4 world nodes of the 4 Black Tortoise worlds. In addition, they had also found out the method of the extraterritorial demon race's invasion. This matter had alerted the Heavenly Emperor Palace. Although the Heavenly Emperor Palace did not reveal anything on the surface, they had been moving frequently in the dark. Almost all the subsidiary martial worlds and the Shattered Continent had been carefully investigated. As for the outside world, no one knew that the extraterritorial demon race had invaded the 4 Black Tortoise worlds. This was related to the face of the Heavenly Emperor Palace. Naturally, the Heavenly Emperor Palace would not tell them too much. However, the Heavenly Emperor Palace did not know because they had concealed the invasion of the extraterritorial demon race. As a result, the other forces did not know that the extraterritorial demon race had already found a way to invade. Therefore, in the near future, the entire heavenly realm would be dragged into turmoil by the extraterritorial demon race. After returning from the 4 Black Tortoise world, Qin Yu entered seclusion again. This time, he entered the ancient seal of the dragon god and absorbed the massive amount of heaven and earth spirit chi sealed in the sky-devouring cauldron with the help of the dragon soul's 10-fold speed. The spiritual state battle ranking would be held in about 20 days. Qin Yu wanted to increase his cultivation strength before participating in the battle ranking. This way, he wouldn't be able to challenge those at a higher level than him on the battle ranking. The atmosphere in the 4 realms of the spiritual state became heated as the spiritual state battle ranking drew closer. The geniuses of the spiritual state battle ranking rubbed their fists and palms together, ready to shine in the spiritual state battle ranking. Of course, apart from the fame, there was another important reason why the spiritual state battle ranking could make all the geniuses of the spiritual state excited. Only the top 20 geniuses of the spiritual state battle ranking were qualified to participate in the heavenly list battle of the 9 states. The 9 states of the heavenly realm were the East Continent, the South Continent, the West Continent, the North Continent, the Central Continent, the Barren Continent, the spiritual state, the demon state, and the godly land. The East Continent and the South Continent belonged to humans. The West Continent and the North Continent belonged to demons. The Central Continent was where the godly fortune veins of the heavenly realm were located, and it was called the Small Heavenly Realm. The Barren Continent was home to countless ancient beasts and ancient desolate beasts. The spiritual state was connected to the extraterritorial battlefield, and there were masters of all races. The demon state was where the ancient demons used to be, but after the war with the ancient demons, the demon state had basically fallen. In the history of the heavenly realm, all the powerful figures who had ascended to godhood had died in the godly land. There were countless ancient relics and miracles there, so it was called the godly land. In his previous life, Qin Yu had died in the godly land. The heavenly list battle of the 9 states was a battle between geniuses of the younger generation in the 9 states of the heavenly realm. Unlike the spiritual state battle ranking, this battle wasn't just a simple ranking of geniuses. The heavenly list battle of the 9 states was held in the central state. The best of the heavenly list battle ranking would obtain the power of providence of the central state's godly range. Chapter 375. According to ancient records, the divine vein of fortune in the middle state seemed to have the power to change the Tao of fortune. The higher the rank of the genius on the heaven ranking, the more divine vein fortune they would receive. It wasn't just empty talk that more Chilan talents came from the middle state. In the history of the heaven domain, all the geniuses who rose in the heaven ranking battle, as long as they didn't die, they would become the peak experts of the heaven domain. This was also the main reason why Qin Yu wanted to participate in the spiritual state battle ranking. Very few people had seen the divine vein of fortune in the middle state, but Qin Yu was one of them. In his previous life, he had thought that the divine vein of fortune was a dragon vein and wanted to use a secret technique to imprison it. In the end, he ended up seriously injured and his fortune seemed to have been damaged. Since then, he had been unlucky for more than 10 years. But now, the situation was different. Although Qin Yu didn't have the cultivation of his previous life, he had obtained the heaven-seizing fortune technique. With the power of the fortune immortal seal, he might be able to directly plunder the power of the divine vein of fortune. The divine vein of fortune that gathered hundreds of millions of living beings in the 9 provinces of the heaven domain. Even if he could only plunder a little, to Qin Yu, it would definitely benefit him greatly. Rumble. Within the divine dragon ancient seal, Qin Yu formed seals with his hands. The 55 partial dragon veins in his body trembled. The pores all over his body were like bottomless pits as they crazily devoured the torrent like boundless spiritual energy. The battle dragon true energy in Qin Yu's body rapidly increased. However, this sort of sudden increase was only after Qin Yu had refined it several times. He had been steadily refining it. Time slowly passed. Only after nearly a month had passed in the ancient divine dragon seal space did Qin Yu manage to completely refine all of the spiritual energy that was as vast as the ocean. His cultivation had also increased greatly. From the initial rank 1 martial emperor, he had advanced to the late rank 2 martial emperor. And this was also the reason why Qin Yu had focused on his foundation and didn't blindly increase his cultivation. Otherwise, with the boundless spiritual energy, it was possible for him to directly advance to the rank 3 martial emperor realm. As his cultivation increased, the power of the 9 secrets of the battle dragon and the dragon clan's secret techniques naturally increased. Qin Yu's strength had a small leap and couldn't be underestimated. However, suddenly, Qin Yu, who had a smile on his face, had a slight change in expression. He discovered that there was an indistinct mark in his dantian. That mark didn't have any energy fluctuations. If not for the fact that Qin Yu's battle dragon true essence was incomparably pure, he might not have been able to discover it. Divine power? After sensing it carefully, Qin Yu raised his eyebrows slightly. That mark was actually condensed from the divine power that Qin Yu had refined. However, Qin Yu clearly remembered that he had completely refined all of the divine power. There was no reason for there to be divine power residue left in his body. Fluctuations of divine power? Have you switched to the primordial Tao of divine power? At this moment, an extremely surprised voice sounded. The dragon soul had finished refining the dragon chi and ended its seclusion. The dragon soul's cultivation had also advanced to the martial emperor realm. His enormous dragon body grew even more muscular, and the divine patterns of lightning could be faintly seen on his pitch-black dragon scales. After absorbing the purple thunder divine firmament dragon's dragon blood, the dragon soul also obtained some of the dragon's lightning power. Dragon soul, do you have any reaction to this divine imprint? He recalled the disgust he felt when the purple thunder divine firmament dragon and the golden flame heavenly burning dragon appeared. However, the skeleton ghost king didn't react to him. So Qin Yu asked the dragon soul, If the dragon's soul also existed, then this ancient divine power would only repel the dragon race. Yes, the aura of that divine power does give me a very uncomfortable feeling. How should I put it? It's as if someone is secretly watching you. It's very eerie. After the dragon's soul finished speaking, it was stunned for a moment. You don't have evil spirit divine power, do you? The primordial divine power was formed from the purest power of faith. That was why divine power was only born in the early days of the ancient era. Following the destruction of the ancient times, the martial arts civilization was broken. At the beginning of the ancient era, people did not know martial arts. They believed in their own gods and sought protection. The more devout one's faith was, the stronger their divine power would be. However, as the martial arts multiplied and developed, the mysterious veil of the gods was exposed, and they were no longer unreachable. In an era where everyone practiced martial arts, naturally, no one would believe in the gods anymore. Thus, the primordial divine power disappeared. However, the inheritance of divine power had been passed down, and many factions would secretly tinker with it. However, the power of faith was too little, and the effect was not great. However, this didn't mean that divine power was inferior to true essence. On the contrary, the power of the primordial divine power was above true essence. However, due to the general trend of the world, divine power could only gradually disappear. Normally speaking, divine power was born from a devout heart, so it was pure and sacred. However, there were also some branches in the primordial divine power that established other orthodoxies. The evil spirit god was a famous evil spirit god in the primordial divine power era. The evil spirit god used resentment, hatred, and other evil powers to form evil spirit divine power. To date, evil spirit divine power was one of the most vicious powers. This is not evil spirit divine power. Chinyu shook his head slightly. He had once killed a sentient evil spirit totem and had seen evil spirit divine power. If this thing was evil spirit divine power, then Chinyu definitely wouldn't have refined and absorbed it. Dragon capturing hand. After thinking for a while, Chinyu formed a hand seal with both hands, and a clear dragon roar came from the main dragon vein. Immediately after, a hand formed by Dragon Chi entered his dantian and restrained the imprint. That imprint seemed to have sensed danger and trembled slightly. Pure divine power rippled out from it. However, in front of the primordial battle dragon art's secret technique, it didn't last long before it was extracted from his dantian. After a while, Chinyu opened his right hand and looked down at the indistinct divine power mark in his palm. Chinyu originally wanted to completely extract this mark from his body. However, for some reason, as long as that mark was extracted from his body, it would automatically dissipate and reappear in his dantian. Chinyu thought for a while and closed his eyes. Origin soul power appeared in his soul sea and seeped into that divine power mark. Boom! At the moment of contact, a strange divine power was suddenly released. Chinyu's origin soul power was directly drawn into a vast and boundless divine power world. In front of this divine power world, anyone would feel as small as an ant. Even Chinyu couldn't help but feel this way. However, Chinyu had now recovered to the martial emperor realm. This sort of insignificant thought was immediately erased by Chinyu the moment it appeared in his mind. He was the mighty dragon god sovereign, an existence who had fought in the heaven region in the past, and whose name had spread far and wide. How could he feel insignificant in front of mere divine power? Boom! As if sensing the change in Chinyu's state of mind, a divine power descended, as if heaven and earth were pressing down at this moment. In the void in front of Chinyu, an illusory figure of a god appeared. The illusory figure of that god couldn't be seen clearly, but didn't seem to be of the human race. The divine power pressure it emitted was also extremely terrifying. Become my servant, inherit my power, and pass on my divine power. A thought spread out from that illusory figure of the god. Become your servant? Chinyu was slightly stunned and then laughed. A god illusory figure. whose spirituality had almost completely dissipated, actually dared to say such arrogant words and ask him to be his servant. Chapter 376. If you don't want to then die. Another thought appeared in the shadow of the deity. At the same time, a vast and terrifying power suddenly bombarded Qin Yu's origin source soul power. Qin Yu's origin source soul power was severely shaken, and his body was severely injured. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. What's going on? The dragon soul was shocked. Its dragon patterns glowed, and it immediately turned into a soul and entered the deity projection. As expected of the ancient era's deity, in the deity projection, Qin Yu, whose soul power was injured, looked at the deity projection with a hint of arrogance. His cultivation had recovered to the martial emperor realm, and his soul power was also in the void space. After devouring those martial emperor's emperor souls, it condensed into an emperor's soul again. However, even with this being the case, in that instant earlier, Qin Yu was still unable to withstand the attack from that deity's silhouette. Unfortunately, this is no longer your era. However, Qin Yu was able to sense a trace of unconcealable weakness from that deity's silhouette's attack earlier. The power of the deity projection had been greatly weakened. Deity, after the dragon soul came in and saw the deity projection, it suddenly understood. No wonder Qin Yu was injured. Kill him. Seeing the dragon soul come in, Qin Yu's eyes flashed. Without any nonsense, his origin source soul power immediately rushed out. No matter where the deity projection came from, since it had attacked, there was no need to show mercy. Roar! The dragon soul roared. In the battle between the soul bodies, the dragon soul was like a fish in water, and it rushed out with a terrifying dragon aura. You dare to resist my deity projection? Die! An enormous palm appeared on that deity's silhouette. Like a mountain, it was moving toward Qin Yu and the dragon soul to suppress them. Let's see if you can kill me, or if I can refine you today. Qin Yu laughed and used a series of destructive soul, Dao, secret techniques, one after another. The dragon's soul's body glowed, and streams of dragon aura condensed into ancient space-time runes. They cooperated with Qin Yu's attacks and bombarded out continuously. Rumble. The giant palm, made of divine power, was abruptly shattered. The fierce battle between the three caused the place to tremble vigorously. Countless cracks spread across the place. The entire divine power world was on the verge of collapse, as if it could shatter at any moment. He is indeed bluffing. Qin Yu's attacks became even more ferocious, and the god's phantom grew weaker and fainter. Space rend. The dragon's soul swung its tail like a Shenron and tore apart the void without any warning. The deity's phantom was cut in half at the waist. It was severely injured and was about to dissipate. Swallow. Qin Yu sensed it in an instant, and his soul power transformed into a giant dragon that directly devoured and refined the god's projection. How is it? After the god-suppressing shadow came out of the godly power world, the god-suppressing shadow came out. When the dragon's soul saw Qin Yu suddenly open his eyes, it couldn't help but ask. As expected, he can control divine power. A smile appeared on Qin Yu's face as he moved his right hand. The god's mark that had originally dissipated condensed, and a weak wave of divine power was emitted. Unfortunately, there was too little divine power, and it was of little use. By the way, Dragon Soul, was the move you used just now a space superpower? Qin Yu withdrew the god's mark in his palm and asked the Dragon Soul. Although a martial artist's attack was strong enough to tear apart the void, it couldn't control the appearance of the spatial crack. As long as one's perception was sensitive enough, one could avoid the spatial crack in advance before it appeared. However, the Dragon Soul's attack just now had caused the spatial crack to appear without any warning. It was obvious that it had grasped the power of deep space. That's right. The Dragon's Soul grinned and turned into its human form. Its right hand pointed in the air, and a spatial crack less than 5 feet long appeared in the void. Although the Dragon Soul's natal superpower was a space-time superpower. It could only be used simply in the past, and it had no deep understanding of it at all. Until now, when its cultivation had advanced to the martial emperor realm, its dragon body had undergone a transformation. The dragon soul's understanding of space-time superpower had taken a leap. The dragon soul's new superpower was called space rend. Within a range of 500 feet, the dragon soul could tear apart space at will. However, it could only tear 10 at most at a time. However, even with these two conditions, the power of this space-splitting divine ability was still extremely terrifying. If the dragon soul's cultivation was stronger, it might even be able to defeat Emperor Realm Masters. After solving the problem of the divine mark, Qin Yu came out of the ancient dragon seal and went to the temple of Heavenly Imperial Palace. The upper echelons of Heavenly Imperial Palace were still busy with the 4 black tortoise realms and the other affiliated martial realms. They sent out many Emperor Realm Elders and a large number of martial emperors to investigate the traces of the extraterritorial demon race. The younger generation of Heavenly Imperial Palace was preparing for the Spirit State War ranking. In recent years, the gap in the younger generation of Heavenly Imperial Palace was serious. In the last Spirit State War ranking, only Sun Shiyu from Heavenly Imperial Palace made it to the war ranking. If Sun Shiyu hadn't made it to the top 50 of the war ranking, Heavenly Imperial Palace's reputation as a top force would have been greatly affected. There were countless forces in the 4 regions of the Spirit State, but there were only 7 top forces. In order to judge a top force, in addition to the presence of a top Emperor Realm Master, the younger generation was also an important reference. If there were outstanding talents in the sect, they wouldn't appear like spring bamboo after the rain. Then, even if the sect's strength didn't weaken, it would be overtaken by other forces and lose its former status. If one stayed in the same place and the other kept getting stronger, the gap would naturally widen. Therefore, the stronger the foundation of a force, the more it would pay attention to the cultivation of a younger generation. Shi Jingtian, Shi Hun Yuan, and Sun Yuan, who were the new talents that were cultivated after Sun Shiyu. Originally, with the aptitude of the 3 of them, they could be considered extraordinary geniuses. But unfortunately, with Sun Shiyu in front of them, they were completely overshadowed. When outsiders mentioned Heavenly Imperial Palace, they would only think of Sun Shiyu. Of course, Qin Yu was a complete exception. The Southern Region God Dynasty Martial Meat Battle and the trip to the Fiend Demon Sea made him the focus of many great forces in the Southern Region. The outside world's evaluation of Qin Yu was already on par with Sun Shiyu. Shun Feng. As soon as Qin Yu arrived at the Sacred Palace, he met the young martial ancestors of Heavenly Imperial Palace. Other than Sun Shiyu, Shi Jingtian, Shi Hun Yuan, and Sun Yuan who Qin Yu had seen before. There were also 4 unfamiliar young men whose cultivation had reached the martial emperor realm. They should be the descendants of the generals. Rank 2 martial emperors. Sun Shiyu, who is greeting Qin Yu, suddenly freezes. She is somewhat stupefied. Didn't they say that Qin Yu had just reached the martial emperor realm? No way. Shi Jingtian was even more incredulous. When they went to the 4 black tortoise realm, Qin Yu had indeed just reached the martial emperor realm. It had only been a few days, but he had broken through another level. Since when was the martial emperor realm so easy to cultivate? You're here for the spiritual state battle ranking. Qin Yu glanced at them. Their cultivation was at the rank 4 martial emperor realm. They should be the top talents of a younger generation of Heavenly Imperial Palace. Coming together at this time should be related to the spiritual state battle ranking. That's right. Sun Shiyu came back to her senses and nodded. Good, let's go together, Qin Yu said. Chapter 377. Together? You also want to participate in the spiritual state tournament? Sun Shiyu was stunned again. Shi Jingtian and the others were even more surprised. Even if Qin Yu's cultivation had broken through again, he was only a grade 2 martial emperor. With such cultivation, he wanted to participate in the spiritual state tournament? Wasn't that just looking for a beating? although the spiritual state tournament only allowed those of the younger generation who had reached the martial emperor realm to participate. One had to know that all the geniuses who had participated in the spiritual state tournament were all grade 4 martial emperors. Even a monstrous genius like Sun Shiyu had to wait until she reached grade 4 martial emperor to participate in the spiritual state tournament. Qin Yu was only a grade 2 martial emperor, but he wanted to participate. Just how much confidence did he have in his own strength? Qin Yu nodded slightly. He did not say anything about the astonishment of Sun Shiyu and the others. Shortly after, the group entered the sacred palace together. Inside the sacred palace, there were 5 figures. Palace Master Shi Tiangang, Emperor Grade Artifact Refiner Sun Yunlang, and 3 others. Qin Yu had never seen them before, but they were not ordinary Emperor Realm Masters. Their auras were as vast as the sea. Grade 2 Martial Emperor Realm. Seeing Qin Yu, Sun Shiyu, and the others enter together, Shi Tiangang and the others' expressions changed slightly. They could also see that Qin Yu's cultivation had broken through again. Sun Yunlang and the others exchanged glances. It seemed that the rumors outside were true. The Emperor's inheritance in the void space was indeed obtained by Qin Yu. However, they didn't reveal anything. If Qin Yu could obtain it, it was Qin Yu's opportunity. Naturally, they would not be jealous or greedy. Shen Feng, why are you here? Shi Tiangang asked. Palace Master, I want to participate in the spiritual state tournament. Qin Yu said directly. Spiritual state tournament. Shi Tiangang was slightly stunned. Sun Yunlang and the others did not expect Qin Yu to make such a request. Shen Feng, you are talented, but your cultivation strength is not high enough. Don't worry. The next spiritual state battle ranking list will be your time to shine. Shi Tiangang revealed a smile on his face. He wasn't just saying this out of politeness. They had all witnessed Qin use cultivation speed. His aptitude was not inferior to Sun Shiyu's. With Sun Shiyu and Qin Yu, Imperial Palace of the Heavenly Emperor would be able to sweep the spiritual state battle rankings in the next competition. Just like the 10,000 martial sect, Ancient Cold Island, and their sworn enemy, the sacrificial evil god dynasty. I'm confident that I can win this battle. Palace Master, please agree. Qin Yu said again. This brat is quite arrogant. To be able to kill those brats from the sacrificial evil god dynasty, he must have some tricks up his sleeves. In the void space, he had such combat strength because of the power of Daoist spells. However, the spiritual state battle ranking list can't rely on external forces. Sun Yunlang and the others secretly communicated with each other. If so, you can come with us. But remember, don't force yourself. In the past competitions of the spiritual state battle ranking list, there have been many cases of serious injuries and even deaths. Seeing Qin Yu's serious expression, Shi Tiangang, Sun Yunlang, and the others agreed after a discussion. It was good to let Qin Yu challenge the battle ranking list. After all, he would stand on that stage sooner or later. Thank you, Palace Master. Qin Yu smiled. I asked you to come because the spiritual state battle ranking list will begin in 12 days. This is the information about the potential talents of each force. Go back and study it carefully. As Shi Tiangang spoke, many crystals flew to Qin Yu, Sun Shiyu, and the others. This was the information collected by Imperial Palace of the Heavenly Emperor. Of course, there would be more people participating in the spiritual state battle ranking list. After all, there could be hidden geniuses in all the major forces. But relatively speaking, those people would have more chances to fight, and they were also powerful. Knowing their information would give him a certain advantage against Sun Shiyu and the others in battle. In the last spiritual state battle ranking list, only Shiyu made it to the battlefield. This year, I hope that 5 of you can make it to the battle ranking list. Shi Tiangang looked at Shi Jingtian and the others solemnly. Sun Shiyu was definitely famous in the spiritual state battle ranking list. He just wanted to see if she could make it to the top 20 and get a place on the heaven ranking list of the 9 states. The most important thing was Shi Jingtian and the others. Yes, Shi Jingtian and the others felt the pressure. Although they hadn't participated in the spiritual state battle ranking list, they had seen it before. All the young talents of the spiritual state gathered, and it wasn't easy to stand out. Go back and prepare. Hearing Shi Jingtian's words, Qin Yu, Sun Shiyu, and the others all left the palace. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. When the spiritual state battle ranking list would begin in 2 days, Shi Tiangang led more than 100 young talents of the Heavenly Imperial Palace out of the Heavenly Imperial Palace by teleportation. The spiritual state battle ranking list would be held in Sky Chi City, which was located at the intersection of the 4 regions of the spiritual state. Sky Chi City was an ancient city from the prehistoric times, and it was filled with extremely terrifying barriers and restrictions all year round. It would only be open during the spiritual state battle ranking list. In other words, the spiritual state battle ranking list would only be held when Sky Chi City opened. This rule had been passed down since the prehistoric times. Countless warriors would study the barriers and restrictions in Sky Chi City every year, but they didn't find anything. According to the time, it should be open soon. At this moment, countless warriors had gathered outside Sky Chi City, which was thousands of kilometers away. Only those top powers would know when Sky Chilan City's enchantment would disappear. Ordinary warriors could only estimate the time based on the time of the last spiritual state battle ranking list. Rumble. Suddenly, countless claps of thunder appeared in the sky. It was as if ancient war drums were being beaten. Soon after, a terrifying ancient murderous aura descended with a loud bang. However, the sky above Sky Chi City was still clear without any abnormalities. It was as if the thunderous sounds and murderous aura had descended directly from the prehistoric times. Countless cultivators trembled, and those whose Tao hearts were unstable even showed signs of their cultivation regressing. The barrier's going to disappear. Some warriors exclaimed excitedly. Crack! Crack! Sure enough, the thunderous sounds gradually faded away, and the murderous aura quietly dispersed. The 12 city gates of Sky Chi City slowly opened, and an aura that had been sealed for countless years swept out from Sky Chi City. However, the cultivators gathered outside the city entered the ancient city in an orderly manner. There was not the slightest bit of disturbance. Although the barrier had disappeared, the restrictions in the city still lingered in the air. There were only 10 battle arenas in the city where one could fight. If one fought in other places in the city, they would be directly killed by the restrictions in the city. In this place, even sovereigns had to restrain their arrogance. Roar! Suddenly, a deafening beast roar appeared in the distant sky. The warriors in the city looked over and saw a golden carriage pulled by 5 huge black tigers that were dozens of feet long. They had a mighty aura, ancient mutated beasts, heavenly fighting demonic tigers. The sage divine dynasty is here. Seeing the 5 huge black tigers, the warriors in the city immediately recognized them. These 5 heavenly fighting demonic tigers were pure, ancient mutated beasts. When they grew up, they could rival sovereigns. To be able to use 5 such mutated beasts to pull a carriage, the Shangxie Divine Dynasty's foundation was undoubtedly revealed. Chapter 378. However, the chariot of the Saint Divine Dynasty stopped a few hundred feet away from Sky Chi City. A group of people with extraordinary auras came out of the golden chariot and walked into Sky Chi City. The sage Great Emperor actually came in person. The crown prince, Zhou Yuanwu, and the second princess, Zhou Jianian, have become more and more unfathomable. In the last leaderboard battle, Zhou Yuan was named one of the 4 great saints and was ranked in the top 50. The second princess, Zhou Jianian, was ranked 31st. I wonder how many people from the Saint Divine Dynasty will make it to the leaderboard this time. Can Zhou Wu Yuan and Zhou Jianian make it to the top 20? Although many of the top 20 in the last leaderboard will not participate in the spiritual state leaderboard battle, because of their age, I think it will be difficult for Zhou Wu Yuan and Zhou Jianian to make it to the top 20. The martial artists in the city saw the arrival of the people from the Saint Divine dynasty and started to discuss. The Tianyang sacred ground is here. The Saint, Tang Mingxin, ranked 47th in the last leaderboard. He was born with a fire divine body and is one of the four great saints. Jin Wushuang, ranked 25th in the last leaderboard, is a popular genius who will fight for the top 20 this time. Jin Wushuang is already 28 this year. If he can't make it to the top 20 this year, I'm afraid he won't have the chance to participate in the 9 states leaderboard and fight with the top geniuses of the 9 states. Is that why Tang Mingxin, who is only 24 years old, was named a saint? Tang Mingxin was born with a fire divine body and is so young. His future achievements will be above Jin Wushuang. A 3-legged golden crow covered in purple and gold flames flew over. It was the Tianyang sacred ground. Whoosh! Behind the Tianyang sacred ground, a starlight flashed across the sky. In the next moment, a group of people appeared in Skychi City as if they had teleported. Emperor Tian Shao, Heavenly Imperial Palace. The great saint, Sun Xiu, ranked in the top 50 in the last leaderboard. She is known as the top genius of the northern region. Heavenly Imperial Palace failed in the last leaderboard. Only Sun Xiu made it to the leaderboard. As one of the 7 top forces, they should show their strength this time. Hey, isn't that Shan Feng, who was the talk of the Heavenly Imperial Palace a while ago? Rumor has it that in the Void Dimension, he inherited the Sovereign's Tao and killed a group of geniuses from the sacrificial evil god dynasty. Shan Feng is a nobody. However, judging from the martial gathering in the southern region divine dynasty and the empty space, I'm afraid he's a genius secretly cultivated by the Heavenly Emperor Palace. It's said that his talent is not below that of Sun Xiu. I wonder if it's true. If it's true, then Shan Feng probably has the emperor physique like Sun Xiu. Shi Tiangang led Qin Yu, Sun Xiu, and the others into the ancient city, ignoring the heated discussions around them. Another power is here. It's the sacrificial evil god court. Crown Prince Kong Bi Tao is ranked 25 on the battle ranking. After killing the direct descendant of the evil sovereign, he should be able to make it into the top 10 after 3 years. Zheng Qingtian killed the last disciple of the evil sovereign and was conferred the title of God's Son. He was ranked 18th in the last battle ranking. This time, he should have no problem getting into the top 10. Following closely behind, the Heavenly Imperial Palace was the sacrificial evil god court. A cold and evil aura swept across the city. Only when the sacrificial evil god court was far away did the martial artists in the city dare to talk about it. After entering Skychi City, the people of the Heavenly Imperial Palace and the sacrificial evil god court looked at each other with hostility. The conflict between the Heavenly Imperial Palace and the sacrificial evil god court was getting more and more intense. If it wasn't for Skychi City, a war would have broken out. Whoosh! A ray of green light pierced through the sky, and a unicorn surrounded by green divine light appeared. The Xianyuan family is here. Young Master Xianyuan Wentian, one of the 4 great saints. He was ranked 40 in the last battle ranking and is known as the most talented of the 4 great saints. Xianyuan Chixing ranked 21st in the last battle ranking. Like Zheng Qingtian and Jin Wushuang, he won't be able to participate in the spiritual state battle ranking after this. One of the top 7 powers, the Xianyuan family. Ancient Frost Island is here too. Young Master Gahan Imo ranked 26th in the last battle ranking. He should be able to make it into the top 20 this time. Qi Huan Mei ranked 27th in the last battle ranking. She's also one of the favorites to make it into the top 20. Ancient Frost Island also appeared after the Xianyuan family. Boom! At this moment, an incomparably vast and mighty fighting intent descended. Even the many top factions in the city turned to look in succession. 10,000 martial sect. Among the top 7 forces, they are the most powerful force among the younger generation. Young Master Wan Wuya, the descendant of the ancient godly king. Rumor has it that he has the strongest bloodline of the ancient godly king. He was ranked 8th in the last battle ranking and made it into the 9 states heaven ranking. How terrifying! Wu Wudi, the descendant of the ancient godly king, ranked 11th in the last battle ranking. Unfortunately, he didn't make it into the 9 states heaven ranking. But now that 3 years have passed, he will definitely make it into the 9 states heaven ranking. More importantly, these two can participate in the next battle ranking. Their talents are heaven-defying. Exclamations sounded. The arrival of the 10,000 martial sect made the other top forces feel pressured. There was no doubt that Wan Wuya and Wu Wudi were the most likely to win the spiritual state battle ranking this time. Not to mention Sun Shiyu, Zhou Weiyuan, and the other rising geniuses. Even the veteran geniuses, such as Zheng Qingtian, Jin Wushuang, Xinyuan Chixing, and the others, looked a little serious when they saw Wan Wuya and Wu Wudi. After the top 7 forces, the top 10 super forces also arrived. The strength of the younger generation wasn't determined by the forces they belonged to. For example, Yi Tianyu of the Heavenly Spirit God Court, Qian Yuming of the Immeasurable God Court, Xiao Jinlong of the Saint Origin Sect, and so on. The strength of these geniuses couldn't be underestimated. Many of them had the potential to make it into the top 20 of the battle ranking. In Skychi City, Shi Tiangang brought Qin Yu, Sun Shiyu, and the others to a palace to stay in. The palaces in the city were ownerless and could be occupied by any force. After settling down in the palace and making arrangements for Qin Yu and the others, Shi Tiangang left. Before the spiritual state battle ranking began, there were many matters that needed to be discussed by the top forces. As soon as Shi Tiangang left, Qin Yu came to the palace and carefully observed the buildings in the city. The moment he entered the city, the celestial creation seal in Qin Yu's soul shook continuously. This surprised Qin Yu, and he didn't understand the reason. Is there something wrong? The dragon soul, an ancient seal of the dragon god, asked. The celestial creation seal's reaction is a little strange. Qin Yu couldn't explain what was going on. Ever since the celestial creation seal was formed, it wouldn't have any reaction unless it was plundering the power of providence. But now, why was there such a strong fluctuation in Skychi City? Qin Yu had also come to Skychi City to take a look out of curiosity in his previous life, but he didn't find anything unusual. As for the restrictions and barriers in the city, they should have been left behind by some ancient almighty. Just as Qin Yu was carefully sensing, his expression suddenly changed, and he tilted his head to look. A figure just happened to walk past the main street, walking toward the palace opposite them. That's a sword scar? Qin Yu was slightly startled. He hadn't seen the sword scar since the 100 martial realm. He didn't expect the sword scar to come to the spiritual state, and his cultivation was already at the high-level martial ancestor realm. Compared to when he was in the 100 martial realm, there was a complete change. However, it wasn't strange that the sword scar's cultivation had undergone such a transformation after receiving the inheritance of the sky-burying sword immortal. Chapter 379. While Qin Yu was sizing up Sword Scar also sensed it and tilted his head to look at Qin Yu. However, Sword Scar did not see through Qin Yu's disguise. After a glance, he withdrew his gaze. Not long after, a figure walked out of the palace. A strange look flashed in Qin Yu's eyes. The figure who came out was Yi Xiaoning, who had fought with him before. But to Qin Yu's surprise, Yi Xiaoning seemed to be a completely different person compared to the one he had seen at the martial assembly. His expression became cold, and his eyes were as sharp as a sword. He could not hide his sharpness. When Sword Scar saw Yi Xiaoning, he was extremely excited and bowed respectfully. Yi Xiaoning did not say anything and directly led Sword Scar into the palace. Could it be no way? Seeing that scene, a thought flashed through both Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul's minds. Sword Scar had obtained the inheritance of Buried Sky Sword Fairy. Yi Xiaoning was a reincarnator, and there was a terrifying sword intent in his body. But now, Sword Scar's attitude toward Yi Xiaoning was so respectful. This made Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul think of a possibility. Could it be that Yi Xiaoning was the reincarnation of the Buried Heaven Sword Immortal? After this thought appeared, it filled Qin Yu's mind and could not be dismissed. If Yi Xiaoning was just an ordinary prince of the sage divine dynasty, how could he be so respectful? That attitude was like facing an elder. It was definitely not as simple as just following Yi Xiaoning. If Yi Xiaoning was really buried sky, sword fairy, then master, Qin Yu was a little excited. His master had entered the immortal-seeking ancient road with buried sky sword fairy, so he must know about his master. Whether he is buried sky sword fairy or not, I don't think it's the right time to look for him. In contrast, the dragon soul was much calmer. No matter how good the relationship between buried sky sword fairy and Qin Yu's master was. However, there was no friendship between the burying heaven sword immortal and Qin Yu. Qin Yu rashly went to look for heaven burying sword immortal. Then, Qin Yu's identity would be exposed. Don't worry, I know what to do. Although Qin Yu was quite excited, he did not lose his cool. With Yi Xiaoning's current cultivation in the martial emperor realm, even Sky Burier sword deity would find it difficult to recover his peak cultivation in a short period of time. In fact, Qin Yu might even be able to recover his cultivation faster than him. Qin Yu naturally wouldn't act rashly now. Wait, Yi Xiaoning has also reached the martial emperor realm? Qin Yu was stunned, then his eyes lit up. Yi Xiaoning's temperament had changed greatly. There was an 80 to 90% chance that he had awakened the memories of his previous life. It wasn't a coincidence that he was here. He must be here for the spiritual state battle ranking list. In this way, Qin Yu could determine whether his reincarnated identity was the Sky Burier sword celestial or not by watching the battle. With the matter of Yi Xiaoning and the abnormality of the creation immortal seal, Qin Yu temporarily put it aside. 2 days passed quickly. Countless warriors of the spiritual state would gather for the spiritual state battle ranking list. Even the forces of the other 8 states would send people to watch it. The geniuses who could make a name for themselves in the spiritual state battle ranking list would have a great reputation in the 9 states of the heaven realm. Rumble. When the 3rd day arrived, in the center of Sky Chi City, more than 10 ancient battle arenas automatically condensed in the void, emitting an ancient aura. The warriors in the city all sensed it and gathered toward the center of Sky Chi City. The first to arrive were naturally the top forces of the spiritual state. The area outside the 10 battle arenas was divided into 2 areas. One was for the warriors to watch, and the other was for the candidates of the participating forces. When the torrent-like warriors in the city gathered in the center of the city, those big forces had already appeared in the participating area. Immediately after, the Emperor Realm referees stepped out. There were 11 of them. One of them was the chief referee, and the other 10 were distributed among the 10 battle arenas. The referees of the spiritual state battle ranking list were not from the participating forces. This was the only way to ensure the fairness of the referees. The spiritual state battle ranking list is held every 3 years. I think everyone is familiar with the rules, but this old man will repeat them. Among the 11 Emperor Realm referees, an old man with white hair and a white beard stepped out. His eyes were full of vigor. This white-haired old man was called the Blue Thunder Emperor, and he was a rogue cultivator. The Blue Thunder Emperor was famous in the extraterritorial battlefield, and he had killed countless emperors from the extraterritorial battlefield. Therefore, his reputation in the spiritual state was comparable to that of the leaders of the top forces. As long as the Blue Thunder Emperor was present, he would be invited to be the referee of the spiritual state battle ranking list. The spiritual state battle ranking list was divided into 2 parts. The first part was the elimination round. All the participating geniuses would be assigned to 10 battle arenas. The top 100 of the spiritual state battle ranking list would be selected in the elimination round. In other words, no matter how many people there were in each battle arena, only 10 people could stay. The conditions for staying were determined by the number of victories. The second part was the ranking battle. In this battle, the ranking was also determined by the number of victories. The higher the ranking of the geniuses, the more victories they would have. No one was allowed to take any spirit pills during the competition. The purpose was to prevent people from taking forbidden pills to suddenly increase their cultivation. In addition, warriors were not allowed to use any spirit treasures except for spirit artifacts. For example, Dao arts, spirit talismans, and lethal ancient treasures made by emperors were forbidden. Once found, the referee had the right to suppress them. If someone's life was in danger during the battle, the referee could help. However, once the referee intervened, it was the same as losing the battle. Now, those who have decided to participate in the battle ranking list, come forward to test your bone age and cultivation. After announcing the rules, the Blue Thunder Emperor waved his sleeve. A 3-meter-long crystal tablet appeared and floated in midair. There were numerous ancient divine patterns circling around it, and it was extremely mysterious. Hearing the Blue Thunder Emperor's words, all the participating geniuses leaped out and stood under the crystal spiritual steel. There were more than 2,000 people, which meant that almost all the talents in the spiritual state had gathered here. The surrounding martial artists all exclaimed in bewilderment. "Isn't that Shun Feng from the Heavenly Imperial Palace?" He also jumped out. Does that mean he also wants to participate in the battle ranking list? No way. Isn't his cultivation only at the Nirvana second rotation of the martial ancestor realm? Waves of heated discussion spread among the onlooking martial artists. Among them, there were even more martial artists who had seen Qin Yu in the southern region. Even many of those participating in the battle rankings were looking at Qin Yu with astonishment in their eyes. Could Qin Yu's cultivation have reached the martial emperor realm? Their guess was soon confirmed. The crystal tablet quickly grew to a size of 1,000 feet, and a white light scattered around it. All the geniuses turned into phantoms and floated in the crystal steel. In the phantoms, their bone age and cultivation were clearly revealed. Those whose bone age exceeded the bone age and whose cultivation were not high enough could be seen at a glance. No way, there's actually a purple divine light. Has there ever been such a monster in the history of the spiritual state? However, when the crystal spiritual steel detected the bone age and cultivation of all the geniuses, incredulous exclamations resounded throughout the entire Sky Chi City. Whether it was the countless onlookers or the masters of the major forces, everyone's gazes were filled with shock as they gathered on a figure. That phantoms was Qin Yu's phantoms. Chapter 380. On the crystal steel, Qin Yu's illusory figure was surrounded by a circle of dazzling purple godly light. Aside from Qin Yu's illusory figure, the other young geniuses also had godly lights flickering, but the lights were different. If one looked carefully, they would notice the godly lights were divided into white, red, cyan, blue, and purple. The white godly light was the dimmest, and the purple godly light was the most intense. However, among the 2,000 young geniuses of the martial emperor realm, only Qin Yu's godly light was dazzling purple. It was like a crane among chickens. In the history of the spiritual state battle ranking, there has never been a purple godly light, right? That's right. This is the strongest godly light in the history of the spiritual state. The blue godly light can surpass 3 levels. The purple godly light can surpass 4 levels. Shun Feng has the battle prowess of a rank 6 martial emperor. What kind of monster did the Heavenly Imperial Palace produce in this generation? Incomparably shocked voices rang out from the crowd of onlookers. The 5-colored godly light could detect a cultivator's potential battle prowess. The stronger the 5-colored godly light, the stronger the potential battle prowess of the cultivator. However, the purple godly light had always been a legend. It had never appeared before. Who would have thought that they would see it on a rank 2 martial emperor today? Purple godly light. Even the master of the Heavenly Imperial Palace, Shi Tiangang, was dumbfounded. At this moment, Shi Tiangang finally understood why Qin Yu was so confident to participate in the spiritual state battle ranking. However, how could Qin Yu have such terrifying potential battle prowess? He was not just on par with Sun Shiyu. He was far more powerful than Sun Shiyu. Purple godly light. Interesting. The young master of the 10,000 martial sect, the muscular Wan Wuya, looked at Qin Yu with great interest. Even when he participated in the spiritual state battle, ranking for the first time, the godly light that appeared was not as terrifying as this. Of course, the stronger the five-colored godly light, the higher the potential battle prowess. However, this was only relative. When Wan Tianya participated in the spiritual state battle, ranking for the first time, he was only a rank 3 martial emperor, but his blue godly light had the battle prowess of a rank 6 martial emperor. But now, his divine light was only red in color. This naturally didn't mean that his strength had regressed. This was because in the martial emperor realm, the higher one's cultivation was, the more difficult it would be to challenge someone of a higher rank. On the contrary, there were still red divine lights appearing in Wan Tianya. This meant that he still had the battle prowess to fight enemies above his level. His aptitude was terrifying. Killing geniuses is only interesting. Kong Bitao, the crown prince of the sacrificial evil god dynasty, glared at Qin Yu like a venomous snake. No matter how strong Qin Yu's talent was, he was still only a rank 2 martial emperor. When he encountered him on the battle roll, he had plenty of secret techniques that could deal with Qin Yu silently. Even if there was an emperor realm master present, they wouldn't be able to detect it. Since the sacrificial evil god court and the sky emperor palace had fallen out, he did not need to worry about anything. Wentian, this man will most probably be your greatest opponent in the future. Xianyuan family's Xianyuan Chixing said to Xianyuan Wentian, I will take first place in the next spiritual state battle ranking list. No one can stop me. Xianyuan Wentian, one of the 4 great saints, said indifferently. Although he had seen Qin Yu's potential, he was still full of confidence. No wonder he could suppress Yi Xiaoning, who has the battle prowess of a martial emperor during the divine dynasty martial gathering. With his potential, no one in the younger generation of the spiritual state will be able to compete with him in the future. Under numerous shocked gazes, the various large forces and countless spectating cultivators all had different expressions on their faces. Such a peerless genius, aside from being envious and amazed, naturally caused countless people to have thoughts about him. After the bone age and cultivation were checked, the divine light surrounding the phantom on the crystal tablet dissipated, and then numbers appeared behind the phantom. After the light flashed, all the numbers were neatly arranged into 10 groups, corresponding to the 10 arenas. I'm on arena number 10. I'm on arena number 6. Damn, arena number 7 has Wan Wuya, Jin Wushuang, Zheng Qingtian, Kong Bitao. Arena number 4 is also the group of death. Xianyuan Chixing of the Xianyuan family, Qi Huanmei of the ancient Cold Island, Wu Wudi of the 10,000 martial sect, Zhou Jianian of the sage divine dynasty. They're not waiting for the ranking competition. They're letting the geniuses of the last battle ranking list fight each other. It's only the elimination competition now. Even if they meet each other, they'll probably reserve their strength until the ranking competition. Indeed, after all, with the strength of the older generation, it's easy for them to enter the elimination competition. The groups that appeared on the Water Spirit Stone Tablet. The more than 2,000 geniuses immediately rushed to the waiting area of their respective arenas. Sun Xiyu was on arena number 3, Qin Yu was on arena number 1, and Shi Jingtian was on arena number 5. The 3 of them didn't meet each other, and there weren't any older geniuses on their arenas. However, Sun Yuanhu, Shi Huanyuan, and the descendants of the 4 generals weren't so lucky. 2 of them were on arena number 4, and the others were on arena number 7. It was difficult to advance. Arena number 4. Before going to the arenas, Qin Yu paid special attention to Yi Xiaoning's arena. Yi Xiaoning was assigned to arena number 4 of the 2 groups of death. Qin Yu's eyes lit up. Even if Yi Xiaoning was a reincarnator, he would have to use his full strength to fight against 4 older geniuses. More than 260 geniuses arrived at the arena number 1's waiting area. Although there weren't any older geniuses who could fight for the top 10 in arena number 1. However, there were more than 10 geniuses who were on the battle ranking list. after all the geniuses stepped into their respective waiting areas. The crystal tablet floated in front of the blue lightning arch, the head judge. The numbers on it disappeared, and 10 arenas appeared. In the next moment, 2 number plates appeared on each of the 10 battle arenas. Those were the contestants' numbers drawn from the crystal tablet. Whether it was the arenas that the warriors were assigned to or the numbers drawn, the crystal tablet was automatically drawn by the crystal tablet. The crystal spirit steel had automatically selected the spirit stones, and there was no artificial arrangement. In this way, luck accounted for a certain proportion. Just like the number 7 and number 4 battle arena, there were already 4 fewer people who could advance to the next round before the battle even started. More importantly, other than the 4 older geniuses, there were several other geniuses on the battle ranking list. It was no exaggeration to say that this was the group of death for the other geniuses. One had to know that the rules of advancement were that the list was determined by the number of victories. However, the rule of elimination was that one would have a chance of being eliminated after accumulating 10 defeats. Therefore, if they wanted to advance in these 2 arenas, after avoiding the older geniuses, they had to give their all in every battle. Begin. On the 10 battle arenas, the geniuses whose numbers were drawn immediately jumped onto their respective battle arenas. An intense battle immediately began. The violent power of the great Tao raged on the arenas. However, the great Tao of heaven and earth only affected the arenas. It didn't spread out at all. Chapter 381. The 2 contestants on the first battle stage were both from the Saint Origin sect and the Arhut Palace. Furthermore, the 2 of them were both new heavenly geniuses. Their cultivations were both rank 4 martial emperors. But in the fierce battle, after exchanging over 10 moves, the victor was decided. The Saint Origin sect's genius was defeated by the Arhut Palace's genius with a single punch. Although their cultivation was the same, it was clear who was stronger. The second battle, after the first battle, the next battle followed. The 2 contestants who had just fought quickly recovered from their injuries and cultivation, although they would not be selected again before the end of the next round of battle. In order to fight in the second round of battle, they had to recover to their peak condition. Although it was a battle between martial emperors, the difference in strength was too great. The battle started and ended quickly. One after another, the geniuses were defeated and became famous. The 7th battle, Shun Feng versus Zhuge Qing. At this moment, the judge on the first battle stage looked at the crystal tablet and continued to announce the battles. Shun Feng, he is finally going to fight. I wonder if he is worthy of the title of having the greatest potential in history. Although this was another battle between new geniuses, Qin Yu was going to fight. Countless onlookers, including the Emperor Masters from the top forces, turned to look at them. They all wanted to know if Qin Yu was a rank 2 martial emperor. Was he as strong as the crystal tablet had said? Did he have the potential to surpass one's cultivation? After leaping onto the battle stage, Qin Yu appeared in a vast space. The 10 battle stages were all empty spaces. After all, a battle between martial emperors might not be able to destroy heaven and earth, but it was still possible to overturn rivers and seas. Without enough space, it was impossible to fight. Zhuge family, Zhuge Qing, please enlighten me. Qin Yu's opponent was a handsome young man who looked less than 20 years old. However, his cultivation had already reached rank 4 martial emperor. He was also a talented genius. Heavenly Imperial Palace, Shun Feng. Qin Yu clasped his fist. Boom! After introducing himself, Zhuge Qing suddenly burst out, and a group of people rushed out. A terrifying shockwave was born, and the void was faintly torn apart. Zhuge clan's unique skill, God-shattering fist. Qin Yu was not afraid at all. He rushed forward and pointed a finger. A fingerprint of divine light pierced through the air and bloomed with dazzling divine light. The terrifying shockwave was sealed in the void. Seeing this, Zhuge Qing was about to retreat. 4 godly glyphs appeared in the godly light fingerprint and appeared around him like lightning. Zhuge Qing's expression changed drastically as his body froze in the void. The sealing divine light could seal a person's soul at the very least, and it could seal heaven and earth at the very most. Qin Yu was still unable to seal the heavens and earth. However, sealing a person's soul was not a difficult task. Shen Feng wins. Seeing that Zhuge Qing was unable to break free from the seal, the Emperor Realm referee immediately declared Qin Yu the winner, suppressing a rank 4 martial emperor with a single strike. This caused countless spectators to be astonished. Qin Yu's ability to fight enemies of a higher realm was within their expectations. However, with a single strike, he defeated a rank 4 martial emperor 2 levels above him. This was shocking. That was one of the 3 divine abilities of the Emperor Palace, the sealing divine ability, right? The Zhuge clan's brat actually had his soul sealed. That divine ability cannot be underestimated. However, if Zhuge Qing's reaction was faster, he should be able to dodge that sealing divine light, right? It's hard to say. Looking at Shun Feng's appearance, he should not have used his full strength. Countless spectators discussed animatedly. They were quite curious about the sealing divine light that Qin Yu used. Didn't they say that the sealing divine light had already disappeared in the Emperor Palace? How'd he do it? Could that brat be a descendant of the ancient godly emperor? No wonder he has such heaven-defying talent. Compared to the spectators, the top forces of the spiritual state, especially the sacrificial evil god dynasty and other forces that were hostile to the Emperor Palace, they had a better understanding of the Emperor Palace. The reason why the Emperor Palace could be ranked as one of the top forces of the spiritual state was because of the divine abilities passed down by the 3 ancient godly emperors. They originally thought that the divine abilities of the ancient godly emperors had already disappeared. After all, the Emperor Palace had not been used by anyone for countless years. Who would have thought that Qin Yu, who suddenly rose to prominence, would actually inherit it? Although Qin Yu's victory had attracted a lot of attention. However, as the following battles continued, the spectators' attention was soon diverted. Over 2,000 top geniuses of the spiritual state were fighting on the 10 stages. That level of brilliance had opened the eyes of countless spectators and caused them to cry out in surprise. Sun Qiyu is fighting on stage number 3. Her opponent is Jiang Minyue of the Heavenly Dragon Island, who ranked 32nd in the last battle ranking. Jiang Minyue is a rank 6 martial emperor. Sun Qiyu's cultivation seems to be concealed, and it's hard to sense. However, there shouldn't be much of a difference. I wonder, no way. Jiang Minyue only lasted 3 moves before being defeated. On stage number 3, Sun Qiyu directly crushed a rank 6 martial emperor from the Heavenly Dragon Island. Jiang Minyue's ranking in the last battle ranking was far higher than Sun Qiyu's. However, this time, she was defeated by Sun Qiyu in just 3 moves. As expected of one of the spiritual state's 4 saints, Sun Qiyu's rapid growth was shocking. Stage number 6, Xianyuan Wentian has been selected to fight against Luo Beidu of the Arhut Palace. It seems that there is no suspense in this battle. Indeed, Xianyuan Wentian was ranked 40 last time, and Luo Beidu was ranked 97th. The situation was as expected. Xianyuan Wentian did not even use a spirit artifact and easily won. Although Xianyuan Wentian's cultivation was concealed like Sun Qiyu's, Xianyuan Wentian's cultivation was not inferior to Sun Qiyu's. However, it could be seen that Xianyuan Wentian's strength was not below Sun Qiyu's. As for whether he was stronger, it was hard to say. Stage number 2, Tang Mingxin's Golden Crow Divine Flame is too strong. It can be used both offensively and defensively. Stage number 8, Zhou Weiyuan defeated the top 50 geniuses of the last battle, ranking in 5 moves. Heavenly Spirit God Dynasty, Crown Prince Yi Tianyu, Zhuge Family, Young Patriarch Zhuge Chengfeng, Great Spirit Palace, Lingzi Yin Qingxia, Evil God Dynasty's 12th Prince, Kong Minggu, Origin Extreme Sacred Ground, Saintess Yin Qingxia, Immeasurable God Dynasty, Crown Prince Qian Yuming. One by one, the famous geniuses won the battles. These were all the new geniuses of the last battle ranking. They had officially risen in this battle ranking, and when it came to the next battle ranking, it would basically be their world. Yi Xiaoning. While waiting for the numbers to be selected, Qin Yu's expression changed, and his gaze fell on stage number 4. Yi Xiaoning had entered the stage. His opponent was a new genius with the cultivation of a rank 4 martial emperor. Among the 2,000 geniuses, the two with the weakest cultivation were Qin Yu and Yi Xiaoning. One of them was a rank 2 martial emperor, and the other was a rank 1 martial emperor. In terms of cultivation, they were completely at the bottom. However, in terms of potential, Qin Yu's purple divine light was number 1, and Yi Xiaoning could also be ranked in the top 10. His potential was a blue divine light. However, Qin Yu's light was too dazzling. Almost everyone's attention was on Qin Yu. Only Qin Yu and a few people from the heavenly spirit god dynasty noticed Yi Xiaoning. Chapter 382. A rank 1 martial emperor dares to participate in the spiritual state battle ranking. You could be said to be the first person in history to do so. The rank 4 martial emperor looked at Yi Xiaoning with a smile on his face. To be able to encounter a rank 1 martial emperor on the 4th stage of the death group was equivalent to picking up a point for free. Yi Xiaoning's gaze was as sharp as a sword as he stood there with a rusty iron sword in his hand. His expression was cold, without the slightest fluctuation. Begin. The instant the referee spoke, Yi Xiaoning suddenly moved. He was as fast as a ghost as he teleported several hundred meters and charged toward the rank 4 martial emperor. So fast, the rank 4 martial emperor was shocked. The boundless great Tao of heaven and earth exploded from his body and immediately engulfed Yi Xiaoning. What a powerful sword Tao! Seeing this, the Emperor Realm referee was surprised. Sure enough, in the next instant, a resplendent sword chi tore through the void. The great Tao of heaven and earth erupted from the rank 4 martial emperor and easily tore it apart like a piece of cloth. Not only that, the rank 4 martial emperor who originally thought that victory was in his grasp was unable to react in time, and his protective barrier was shattered by the sword chi, causing him to be seriously injured and eliminated. A rank 1 martial emperor defeated a rank 4 martial emperor with a single strike. Damn, where did that brat come from? He actually has such heaven-defying battle strength. Yi Xiaoning, the prince of the heavenly spirit god dynasty. He used to have some fame in the Southern Territory, but that was all. I didn't expect him to be so powerful after reaching the martial emperor realm. He defeated a rank 4 martial emperor with a single strike. I'm afraid he has the battle strength of a rank 5 martial emperor. First, there was the crown prince Yi Tianyu. Now, there's the monster Yi Xiaoning. If the heavenly spirit god dynasty continues like this, it's very possible for it to become the 8th peak power. This Yi Xiaoning's potential is likely on par with Qin Feng. No, it might even surpass Qin Feng. Yi Xiaoning was like a dark horse that appeared out of nowhere. He became famous in a single battle and shocked countless people. Even the older generation of geniuses were extremely shocked. It wasn't that they hadn't seen people who could defeat people with higher cultivation than them. However, to be able to defeat so many people with higher cultivation as a rank 1 martial emperor was as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. It's not the 3 buried heaven styles. Could it be that he isn't the reincarnation of the buried heaven, sword immortal? Qin Yu's eyebrows slightly raised. The power of Yi Xiaoning's sword Tao was indeed extremely terrifying. However, it was not the heaven-burying 3 moves of the heaven-burying immortal sword. It was not even the heaven-burying sword Tao that the heaven-burying sword immortal cultivated. Qin Yu had only seen the sky-burying sword immortal once when he was a martial king. However, he had a deep impression of the heaven-burying sword principle. After pondering for a while, Qin Yu tilted his head and looked at the area of the heavenly spirit god dynasty. Qin Yu's eyes flashed when he saw that the sword mark was full of admiration and even looked at him with yearning. It seemed that he had to wait and see before making a decision. Yi Xiaoning's appearance caused an uproar once again. A rank 1 martial emperor had surpassed rank 3 martial emperors and defeated a rank 4 martial emperor with a single move. Even in the history of the spiritual state, this was a brilliant battle record. For a moment, Yi Xiaoning's limelight was even above Qin Yu's. The first elimination round of the 10 arenas was over in a flash. More than 20 battles were over in a flash. The second round began, and the geniuses who had won the first round continued to win easily. In this round, there were no more dark horses, but there were no geniuses who failed either. Wan Tianya and the other veteran geniuses didn't even need to go on stage, as their opponents admitted defeat. No one would embarrass themselves in a battle where they had no chance of winning. If they were unlucky and were seriously injured, it would be a huge loss. Then, the third round, the fourth round, the fifth round, after half a day, the 10 rounds of battles ended, and the first batch of eliminated geniuses appeared. At this stage, the battles on the various combat arenas had clearly become more and more intense. For some people, even if they encountered the older generation of Sky Prides, they were not afraid to challenge them. They came to participate in the battle rankings with the mentality of fighting against the top geniuses. Naturally, they wouldn't admit defeat again. No matter how intense the battles were, they ended rather quickly. If it was a life and death battle, they could still escape if they couldn't win. However, in the arenas, it was either victory or defeat. No one would do something as embarrassing as running away when they couldn't win. The scorching sun set in the west, and night fell. However, under the divine ability of an Emperor Realm Master, the area within 10,000 miles of Sky Chi City was as bright as day. At this moment, the 20th round of battles ended, and more geniuses were eliminated. The 11th match of the 29th round, Shun Feng versus Xiao Zhenlong. After a series of exciting battles, another battle that attracted a lot of attention was about to take place. Qin Yu was drawn. His opponent was finally no longer a match for the newcomers. Xiao Zhenlong was the eldest disciple of one of the 10 superpowers, the Saint Origin sect. In the previous battle rankings, Xiao Zhenlong obtained the 45th rank with his cultivation of a rank 5 martial emperor. In the previous battles, Xiao Zhenlong, like Qin Yu, swept through all his opponents. He was also one of the most popular candidates for the top 10 spots on the first arena. Xiao Zhenlong's cultivation has indeed reached rank 6 martial emperor. In 3 years, he crossed the dividing line of rank 5 martial emperor and entered rank 6 martial emperor. Xiao Zhenlong's battle power has definitely taken a huge leap. This way, we can see Shan Feng's true battle power. I wonder if the Purple Divine Light's strongest potential can be passed. Countless onlookers watched with great interest. Even the other participating geniuses shifted their gazes to look at the two of them. A rank 6 martial emperor could be considered one of the top geniuses in the spiritual states battle rankings. If nothing unexpected happened, Xiao Zhenlong's ranking would be in the top 30 this time. What? Do you think you have a chance of winning against me? Xiao Zhenlong crossed his arms and looked at Qin Yu arrogantly. Qin Yu's title of having the strongest potential in history didn't scare him. On this martial stage, one's talent wasn't important. The reason why Sun Shiyu and the other 3 were named the 4 great saints in the previous battle rankings was because of their talent. Apart from their talent, it was also because they entered the top 50 of the battle rankings. Otherwise, the title of 4 great saints wouldn't belong to them. And judging from Qin Yu's 20-odd battles, Xiao Zhenlong could tell that. Qin Yu relied on his comprehension of the Tao of extreme speed and the divine ability of sealing. Naturally, Xiao Zhenlong didn't put Qin Yu in his eyes. You? Huh. If I can't even defeat you, I wouldn't have come to the spiritual states battle rankings. Qin Yu smiled faintly. He didn't take Xiao Zhenlong seriously at all. Kid, don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have some talent. In this world, only strength is absolute. Talent is just talent. Xiao Zhenlong's eyes twitched, and a violent aura surged. Boom! Immediately, a golden staff appeared in Xiao Zhenlong's hand. The staff pierced through the air and smashed toward Qin Yu with the force of a thunderbolt. Qin Yu wasn't afraid at all. He used the Tao of extreme speed and turned into a beam of light to meet the attack head-on. Seeing this, countless cultivators' eyes narrowed. Was Qin Yu going to meet the attack head-on? Chapter 383. You're overestimating yourself. Xiao Zhenlong sneered as the golden staff in his hand glowed with a golden light. A sacred and vast golden shadow appeared on the golden staff, and its power increased by several times. Saint Origin's sect's secret technique, Saint Origin Spirit. Xiao Zhenlong is using his Saint Origin Spirit. He's going all out. The spectating martial artists recognized the divine golden shadow that Xiao Zhenlong used. Bang! Qin Yu collided with Xiao Zhenlong. A deafening explosion sounded and a destructive shockwave spread out. But when the onlookers saw what happened, they were stunned. Xiao Zhenlong had used his Saint Elemental Soul to increase the power of his staff, but it was blocked by Qin Yu with a single punch. Is it the Immortal God Seal? Like Sun Shiyu, this guy has also mastered 2 divine techniques. No wonder he has the strongest potential in history. He's able to face a rank 6 martial emperor head-on. The onlookers exclaimed. On Qin Yu's right fist that he had shot out, a divine seal that was flickering with divine light was condensing. The Immortal God Seal covered Qin Yu's entire right fist like a shield. It blocked Xiao Zhenlong's staff and didn't crack at all. This made the onlookers, who thought that Qin Yu was weaker than Yi Xiaoning, change their opinion. Without mentioning anything else, merely the strength that Qin Yu displayed right now was definitely enough for him to be ranked in the top 100 of the battle rankings. No, the Immortal Stone Emperor Seal might have unparalleled defense, but it can't block all the attacks. Only Shi Tiangang from the Heavenly Imperial Palace saw through it. Xiao Zhenlong's attack was blocked by the Immortal Stone Emperor Seal. However, there was still a frightening power that bombarded Qin Yu. As for Qin Yu, his body didn't even tremble in the slightest after taking on the remaining power of the attack. The blood and qi in his body were still incomparably powerful. Qin Yu actually also possessed such a level of attainment in body refinement techniques. How is this possible? Of course, Xiao Zhenlong was the one who was most shocked. After using his Saint Origin Spirit, his attack became several times stronger. Unexpectedly, it was easily blocked by Qin Yu. This caused him to feel an indescribable shiver in his heart. You're going to lose. Xiao Zhenlong reacted quickly and was about to attack again. Seal. Qin Yu's right hand changed. The fist cover turned into a divine claw. It suddenly grabbed onto that divine stick. The divine light of the seal shone and sealed the Saint Origin Spirit. Xiao Zhenlong's dragon god tyrannical body made him unable to pull the staff away. You're right. Strength is absolute in this world. Xiao Zhenlong's face. Qin Yu's boom. Boom. Suddenly, Qin Yu's left hand shot out several tens of punches as fast as lightning. Every punch contained an incomparably terrifying slaughter Dao. Xiao Zhenlong's expression changed. He changed his hand seals, and a green shield of the Great Path appeared around him. Although he had been blasted several hundred meters away, his injuries were not very serious. His physical strength has reached several million kilograms. Is he a body cultivator? Xiao Zhenlong was bewildered. His eyes were filled with unconcealable graveness and disdain. If it wasn't for his quick reaction, he would have been defeated. As expected, a rank 2 martial emperor can't defeat a rank 6 martial emperor without using the 9 esoteric battle dragon. Since that's the case, Qin Yu threw away the staff in his hand. Azure dragon marks could be seen in his body. Rank 3 martial emperor. Xiao Zhenlong, who had just summoned the staff back to his side, was shocked. He instantly sensed that Qin Yu's cultivation had increased by a rank. His face turned grave. When he was a rank 2 martial emperor, he was almost defeated by Qin Yu. Now that Qin Yu was a rank 3 martial emperor, an indescribable pressure enveloped Xiao Zhenlong. Could it be that he, the eldest disciple of the Saint Origin sect, was going to be defeated by a newcomer? Boom! The space suddenly exploded. Qin Yu's figure flashed and disappeared. Saint Origin protection. Xiao Zhenlong's face changed. His hair stood on end. He immediately shouted, and his body emitted a golden light. A several-meter-large Saint Chi soul appeared and merged with him. Bang! However, almost at this moment, Qin Yu appeared like a ghost and shot out a punch. Divine light exploded. Xiao Zhenlong felt like he was hit by an ancient beast. The Saint Origin spirit exploded, and he was sent flying. Boom! 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 Before Xiao Zhenlong could react, the Saint Origin spirit fist bombarded his body like a meteor shower. Under the Saint Origin spirit fist, Xiao Zhenlong's great Tao energy trembled and exploded. He was seriously injured and vomited blood. Shen Feng wins. The Emperor Realm Judge waved his hand and dispersed Qin Yu's attack. He announced the end of the battle. His great Tao energy was destroyed. A Heaven's Pride on the previous battle ranking raised his eyebrows. A rank 3 martial emperor had destroyed the great Tao energy of a rank 6 martial emperor. There was only one possibility for such a situation. Xiao Zhenlong had broken through to rank 6 martial emperor with the help of external forces. His foundation was unstable. After this battle, Qin Yu's reputation became even more resounding. Even though Xiao Zhenlong had broken through by force, his foundation was unstable. However, he was not faking his cultivation of rank 6 martial emperor. Merely, it was an exaggeration. In other words, Qin Yu had the strength to defeat a rank 6 martial emperor. After this battle, the older generation of Heaven's Prides on the previous battle ranking took Qin Yu seriously. They no longer treated Qin Yu as a newcomer with potential. It should be known that Qin Yu did not even use his holy weapon in the battle just now. With Qin Yu's talent, they would not believe that the Heavenly Emperor Palace did not prepare a divine artifact, or even an Emperor artifact for him. From this, they could tell that Qin Yu did not use his full strength in the previous battle. After returning to the waiting area, the gazes of the surrounding Heaven's Prides changed as they looked at Qin Yu. There was fear, hostility, and respect. Since he had defeated Xiao Zhenlong, Qin Yu would most likely be in the top 10 of battle stage number 1. The battles continued. One after another, Heaven's Prides rose. Like Qin Yu, their reputations grew more and more resounding. However, there were also cases where Heaven's Prides were defeated. When Qin Yu was not fighting, he was observing the battles on the other battle stages. His focus was naturally on Yi Xiaoning. Yi Xiaoning had become a popular Heaven's Pride for the top 10 of battle stage number 4. He had been undefeated throughout his journey. Rank 4 martial emperors would be defeated in 2 strikes at most. Rank 5 martial emperors could not withstand 10 strikes from him. Among this batch of new disciples, Yi Xiaoning's reputation was second only to Qin Yu's. 33rd round, Yi Xiaoning versus Wu Wudi. Suddenly, Qin Yu's eyes lit up. Yi Xiaoning's opponent this time was Wu Wudi. Wu Wudi was a Heaven's Pride of the 10,000 martial sect. He was the descendant of the ancient martial god. He was one of the popular candidates for this battle ranking. If Yi Xiaoning wanted to win against Wu Wudi, his current strength would not be enough. He would definitely have to use his trump card. I forfeit. However, in the next moment, Qin Yu's gaze froze. Yi Xiaoning had actually forfeited. Chapter 384. This once again caused Qin Yu to doubt whether or not his guess was wrong. Otherwise, why would the mighty Burier sword deity, who had once ruled the 9 prefectures of the Heaven Domain, admit defeat to a junior of the martial Emperor realm? Qin Yu did not think that the real Burier sword deity did not have the means to fight opponents of a higher level. However, whether Qin Yu thought it through or not, Yi Xiaoning's defeat was a fact. Moreover, Yi Xiaoning did not make a move against Xianyuan Chixing, Qi Huanmei, and the other older generation geniuses. He directly surrendered. Even so, Yi Xiaoning's battle results were among the best, second only to those older generation geniuses. It was a foregone conclusion that he would be in the top 10. Although Yi Xiaoning did not know what his purpose was, he should be participating in a ranking battle. For Qin Yu, there was still a chance to test him. Up until now, The battles on the 10 great fighting arenas had already gone through 50 rounds. At this time, the top 10 of each fighting stage was basically obvious. It was basically clear who had the strength to enter the combat role, and who had just come to broaden their horizons. Qin Yu and Sun Shiyu of the Sky Imperial Palace were confirmed to be in the top 10. Sure, Jingtian's battle results were also good. As long as he did not make a fuss, he should be in the top 10. However, Sun Yuanhu, Shi Huanyuan, and the 4 descendants of the generals, 3 of them had already been eliminated. The other 3 basically had no chance of advancing. Their elimination should be a foregone conclusion, although this result did not reach the 5 spots that Shi Tiangang had set. However, Qin Yu's rise had completely made up for the gap of Sun Yuanhu and the others. At this time, Shi Tiangang was quite glad that he had agreed to let Qin Yu participate in the combat role. With Sun Shiyu and Qin Yu's extraordinary performance, the reputation of the Sky Imperial Palace would greatly increase. The elimination battle went on for a total of 12 days before it ended. The top 10 of each fighting stage had settled down. The onlookers were counting the number of geniuses of each force. The number of people who had advanced from the top 7 forces. 10,000 Martial Sect, 6. Ancient Cold Island, 4. Xinyuan Family, 5. Heavenly Sun, Holy Land, 5. Sacrificial, Evil God Dynasty, 4. Sky Imperial Palace, 3. The Sage Divine Dynasty had 4 people. Judging from a number of people who had advanced and the strength of those who had advanced, the Sky Imperial Palace was at the bottom again. The 10,000 Martial Sect, regardless of whether it was a top genius or a genius on the combat role, had won. Geniuses from the other 10 super forces, as well as the smaller forces, had also advanced to the next round. Almost every force had at most 6 people from the 10,000 Martial Sect. After all, it was not easy to nurture a powerful young martial progenitor. After the end of the elimination round, the leaderboard ranking battle followed. 8 of the 10 arenas disappeared, and the 10 Emperor Realm referees left with them. Next, the Blue Lightning Emperor acted as the judge. The rules of the ranking competition were similar to the elimination competition. The ranking was determined by the number of victories. In the battles, those who lost more than 10 battles would lose the qualification to compete for the top 50. In other words, the top 50 and bottom 50 rankings would be divided into 2 rounds. The top 20 who were qualified to participate in the 9 prefectures heaven ranking would be chosen from the top 50. Shen Feng, how much of your strength did you use in the battle just now? Sun Shiyu, Qin Yu, and Shi Jingtian gathered. Sun Shiyu asked Qin Yu. Shi Jingtian also looked at Qin Yu. Obviously, he was also very curious. Half, Qin Yu said. In fact, he did not use half of his strength. The Azure Dragon battling the heavens was only amplified to the 3rd grade Martial Emperor realm. That means you should be able to enter the top 20. Sun Shiyu was surprised. Although she could see that Qin Yu did not use his full strength, she did not expect that Qin Yu had only used half of his strength in the battle against the 6th grade Martial Emperor Xiao Zhenlong. Shi Jingtian was stunned, defeating a 6th grade Martial Emperor with less than half of his strength. In that case, how powerful was Qin Yu's true battle power? That's why I came. A smile appeared on Qin Yu's face. He was determined to enter the top 20. You're still planning to participate in the 9 prefectures heavenly ranking? Sun Shiyu is startled. She comes to her senses. Qin Yu's ambition is actually so great. Don't you want to fight against the top geniuses of the 9 prefectures? Qin Yu said, Of course I do. I will use my full strength in the battle later. Don't go easy on me. Sun Shiyu clenched her fist, and a proud look appeared on her face. She had the strongest bloodline of the 3 sovereigns in the history of the Sky Emperor Palace. Since young, she had been taught to become a top expert. The heavenly ranking that gathered the top geniuses of the 9 prefectures was naturally her goal. Don't cry if you lose too badly. Qin Yu smiled. Sun Shiyu was indeed very talented. If she ignited the bloodline of the 3 sovereigns, she would be able to soar into the sky. I don't think that I will lose to you. Sun Shiyu's battle intent surged. Shi Jingtian let out a bitter smile. Being beside these two monsters, he truly felt immense pressure. Not only the Sky Emperor Palace, but the geniuses of the other forces were also talking to each other. In the following battle, there would definitely be infighting between disciples of the same sect. Many forces have been using the victory or defeat of the heavenly ranking to determine the status of their disciples. Therefore, even disciples of the same sect would fight with their full strength. The spiritual state ranking battle of the top 100 will now begin. Without any rest, the Blue Lightning Sovereign immediately began the ranking battle. On the crystal tablet, the numbers of the top 100 flickered and finally stopped at two numbers. Shen Feng versus Du Qiao. The first battle was already a battle that attracted everyone's attention. Qin Yu, the strongest newcomer in this year's heavenly ranking battle. No one could predict how strong he was. Du Qiao, the saintess of the everlasting sacred ground. Her cultivation was concealed by a secret technique. However, she had reached the 5th grade martial emperor realm in the last heavenly ranking battle and was ranked in the top 50. The battle between the two of them made many onlookers excited. Qin Yu leaped onto the battle stage and entered the Sumeru realm. Du Qiao, dressed in a white dress and with a graceful figure, stepped in the air. Her temperament was elegant and her fragrance was intoxicating. Hallucination fragrance. As Du Qiao stood in the air, a faint layer of divine light appeared on Qin Yu's body. Qin Yu had read Du Qiao's information. She majored in martial arts and minored in illusions. The fragrance emitted from her body could make people unknowingly fall into an illusion. Therefore, Qin Yu sealed all the pores on his body. Du Qiao saw the divine light on Qin Yu's body and knew that the Sky Emperor Palace had investigated her. However, she did not restrain her fragrance and looked as usual. This kind of situation happened to all the heavenly talents, just like how she also knew about Sun Shiyu. However, the sacred ground did not know much about Qin Yu, who had suddenly risen. They only knew that Qin Yu had mastered the 3 great secret techniques of the Sky Emperor Palace. Begin. As the Blue Lightning Sovereign's voice sounded, Du Qiao instantly formed a seal with her hands, and a layer of white light flickered on her body. Chapter 385. The next moment, white flowers exuded a strange phenomenon. They were born out of thin air, vivid and lifelike, as if they grew in the void. Du Qiao's figure became a little blurry. She looked like a bright moon in the water, and even ripples appeared. Is that the everlasting sacred shrine's ancient secret technique, the everlasting illusory world? Rumor has it that when this secret technique is cultivated to the peak, one can make thousands of creatures fall into the everlasting illusory world with a thought. I didn't expect Du Qiao to succeed. The Tao of illusion and the martial Tao state of mind are the most important. I'm afraid Shen Feng is in trouble this time. Indeed, although Shen Feng can improve his cultivation with the secret technique, he can't improve his martial Tao state of mind. Exclamations sounded one after another. The everlasting illusory world embodied the everlasting illusory world of heaven and earth. In the illusory world, illusions and reality were real. Once one fell into it, they would never be able to break free. This was the ancient secret technique created by the first sacred master of the everlasting sacred shrine. Even among the onlookers, except for those of the emperor realm, countless martial emperors could not see through Du Qiao's everlasting illusory world. Sun Shiyu, Shi Jingtian, and the others could not help but feel a little nervous. The prowess list had just begun. Was Qin Yu going to be defeated? Everlasting illusory world. Qin Yu looked at the flowers in the sky and smiled. In the Tao of illusion, the stronger one's martial Tao state was, the harder it was to be confused. This ancient secret skill was indeed shockingly powerful. However, it was a pity that Du Qiao had made a huge mistake by using it on him. With Qin Yu's firm state of mind that had experienced 1,000 years of samsara, how could he possibly be bewitched by illusions? More importantly, Qin Yu's Emperor soul had now recovered, so, boom, without any warning, Qin Yu's fist shot toward a certain region of the void filled with white flowers. A murderous fist force swept out and erupted. In a murderous fist force, there was an extremely terrifying chaotic force that disturbed the void. Boom! Several destructive forces exploded, and Qin Yu's body shook as he was sent flying dozens of feet away. Among the silhouettes that Qin Yu had bombarded, a silhouette with a stunned expression also retreated several tens of steps. This kid is actually not affected at all. Seeing that Qin Yu didn't hesitate to launch an attack, the blue lightning sovereign's eyes flickered. The Emperor Realm Masters of the Great Forces were also quite surprised. As venerable sovereigns who had condensed their martial wills, their mental states were as solid as stone, so they were not affected by the limitless illusion technique. But how did Qin Yu ignore the power of the limitless illusory world? This aura, rank 7 Martial Emperor, in 3 years' time, Du Qiao's cultivation actually increased by 2 levels and reached rank 7 Martial Emperor. Judging from a fluctuation of her aura, it's obvious that she broke through steadily. Rank 7 Martial Emperor, it is certain that he will be able to reach the top 30. Perhaps, he might even be able to reach the top 20. Xinfeng, what should we do? As for Du Qiao, who had originally planned to launch a sneak attack on Qin Yu, but was attacked by Qin Yu first, the cultivation that she had concealed completely erupted. He was a rank 7 Martial Emperor. In the previous spiritual state war ranking, all rank 7 Martial Emperors had entered the top 30 without exception. Even Wan Weia from the previous war ranking had entered the top 10. Even in those peak powers, it was extremely rare for a rank 7 Martial Emperor to appear among the younger generation. Basically, they would only nurture a single rank 7 Martial Emperor. If 2 were to appear, it would be a great fortune. Among the Martial Emperors, you're the first one who is not affected by the limitless illusory world. Can you tell me how you managed to do it? Du Qiao's body emitted the boundless might of a rank 7 Martial Emperor without any concealment. She waved her hand and dispersed the limitless illusory world. Intense doubt filled her eyes. The might of the limitless illusory world depended on the strength of the opponent's cultivation. Its effect also varied. However, even Wan Weia, who was ranked 9th in the previous war ranking, was unable to break through the limitless illusory world. Even though he had broken through the limitless illusory world, he was still greatly affected by it. Du Qiao was unable to understand how Qin Yu had managed to do it. When one's mental state is so strong that it cannot be shaken, no illusion technique will be able to confuse one's heart. Qin Yu said indifferently, "It is impossible for a martial emperor's mental state to be so strong." Du Qiao shook her head slightly. In the words of the Emperor Realm, the mental state of the martial Tao was martial will. The Emperor Realm used the power of the Tao to temper their martial will and pursue a stronger martial Tao. It was rumored that martial will was impervious to all evil. That was why the Emperor Realm was not affected by her limitless, illusory world. However, in the martial Emperor Realm, no matter how strong their mental state was, as long as they did not condense their martial will, they would more or less be affected. Not to mention that her cultivation had already reached rank 7 Martial Emperor. In the ancient times, there were cultivators who went through thousands of tribulations to temper their mental state. Even if you don't know about them, it doesn't mean they don't exist, Qin Yu said. Du Qiao's eyes flickered when she heard that. She had read about the mental cultivators that Qin Yu spoke of in ancient books. She had always thought that mental cultivators could restrain all illusions and bewitching techniques. However, since the Azure Lightning Emperor did not make a move, it meant that Qin Yu did not rely on external help. It would appear that Qin Yu had trained in the heart cultivation secret technique. Since you know my cultivation, why do you still want to make a move? Du Qiao did not linger on a matter of the mental state of the martial Tao. She had seen the battle between Qin Yu and Xiao Jinlong, so she knew that Qin Yu had not used his full strength yet. However, The difference in strength between a rank 7 martial emperor and a rank 6 martial emperor was more than 10 times. Even if Qin Yu's cultivation was comparable to a rank 6 martial emperor, he would not be affected by the limitless illusory world. However, in front of absolute strength, everything was futile. Rank 7 martial emperor, still a bit lacking. Qin Yu smiled faintly. I really want to see just how strong your potential is. Du Qiao's eyelids moved slightly. With an intoxicating fragrance, she charged toward Qin Yu. At this moment, 9 flower dragons, formed by 100 flowers, appeared in the sky. They were flying toward Qin Yu to attack him. Break! The azure dragon mark on his body appeared. Divine light filled his palm as Qin Yu attacked. With a thrust of his spear, a boundless killing intent burst forth and engulfed heaven and earth. Rank 5 martial emperor. A cry of alarm sounded. Among the spectating cultivators, there were people who sensed Qin Yu's current cultivation. What kind of secret technique is this? Du Qiao turned pale with fright. She found it hard to believe. This was the first time she had seen a secret technique that could increase one's cultivation by 3 levels. Rumble. An explosion sounded. The destructive power of slaughter swept through the sky. The 9 flower dragons were directly suppressed. They turned into flowers that filled the sky and scattered in the sky. Limitless heavenly cage. Seeing Qin Yu charging toward her, Du Qiao immediately came back to her senses. She quickly formed hand seals with her hands, and a strange power spread out. The scattered flowers in the void silently melted into the void. Immediately, Qin Yu felt as if this region of heaven and earth had turned into a cage that had imprisoned him. This was another ancient divine technique of the everlasting sacred ground. It sealed the space around Qin Yu. Chapter 386. Indestructible Stone Emperor Seal. Qin Yu's mind flashed, and a divine light flashed. An ancient seal, made of divine light, descended. Within the ancient seal, there was a phantom that was a few hundred feet tall. Vast and unparalleled divine power swept through the Sumeru realm. Du Qiao's heavenly cage was suppressed by the Stone Emperor's phantom. The seal around Qin Yu's body immediately disappeared. That's the Stone Emperor's phantom. Sure, Tiangong's body trembled, and his eyes were filled with shock. As the Stone Emperor's descendant, he naturally knew. After completely comprehending the indestructible Stone Emperor seal, one could summon the Stone Emperor's phantom. However, in the current Sky Emperor Palace, no one could reach that level. Qin Yu actually did it. This made Shi Tiangang stunned. He was the true descendant of the Stone Emperor. Whoosh! The instant the limitless heavenly cage was suppressed, the great Tao of extreme speed erupted. Qin Yu turned into a ray of light, and with a monstrous killing power, he shot toward Du Qiao with his spear. Du Qiao formed a seal with both hands, and an yin-yang flower formation condensed in front of her. The yin-yang flower formation spun rapidly, turning into a yin-yang vortex that swept toward Qin Yu. Qin Yu formed a seal with his left hand, and divine light gathered. The sky-devouring cauldron evolved and became dozens of feet large, directly swallowing the yin-yang vortex. Whoosh! The sky-splitter spear was like Shenron rising out of the sea, carrying an unparalleled power as it pierced through the air. A pitch-black crack appeared in the void. From this, it could be seen how powerful Qin Yu's attack was. Du Qiao clearly didn't expect Qin Yu to be able to swallow the yin-yang limitless array. In her shock, she immediately summoned an ancient bronze shield. Bang! An incomparably terrifying force bombarded the ancient bronze shield. With a crack, a fine crack immediately appeared on the ancient bronze shield. Immediately, this defensive divine artifact shattered, turning into countless bronze fragments that scattered in all directions. A dazzling divine light burst out, making it difficult to open one's eyes. Every ray of divine light emitted an extremely destructive aura. Du Qiao's face was pale, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. But with this momentary gap in defense, Du Qiao immediately pulled away from Qin Yu. The exchange of blows just now had allowed her to clearly confirm this. Although Qin Yu's cultivation of rank 5 martial emperor was increased by a secret technique, his true battle power was already sufficient to threaten her. In other words, the current Qin Yu's battle prowess was completely on par with a rank 7 martial emperor. Not good. However, Du Qiao had only retreated a few dozen meters when a chaotic force appeared, immediately distorting the space around her. Du Qiao's expression changed drastically. Without thinking, she gathered all her great Tao energy behind her. Boom! Almost at this moment, a world-destroying, killing intent erupted like a flood. Du Qiao was immediately sent flying back while vomiting blood. Du Qiao, who was sent flying, quickly stabilized her body and forcefully suppressed the chaotic true essence in her body. She focused her gaze and realized that a Qin Yu had appeared in 5 different locations around her. Those were clearly his avatars. Shen Feng wins. When Du Qiao was about to take action, the majestic voice of the Blue Thunder Emperor sounded. "Elder, why is this so?" Du Qiao was stunned. She looked at the Blue Thunder Emperor in confusion. She clearly hadn't lost. So why would the Blue Thunder Emperor declare Qin Yu the winner? "Look up." The Blue Thunder Emperor pointed to the sky. This, Du Qiao raised her head and narrowed her eyes. A 5-elemental ancient formation appeared above her head. The 5 elements ancient formation was only a few dozen meters away from her, but she didn't notice it at all. More importantly, she had no idea when Qin Yu had set up this ancient formation. This is the 5 elements God slaughtering formation. It seems like you don't recognize it. The Blue Thunder Emperor glanced at Qin Yu's body as he spoke. Qin Yu immediately understood what was going on. In the blink of an eye, a wisp of killing intent from the 5 elements God slaughtering formation locked onto Du Qiao. Du Qiao's body trembled violently as a bone-chilling sensation of death enveloped her. "Do you still have any doubts?" The Blue Thunder Emperor asked. "I've lost." Du Qiao respectfully bowed to the Blue Thunder Emperor. If it had been a life-and-death battle, with the terrifying killing intent of the 5 elements God slaughtering formation, she would have died a long time ago. The 4 incarnations turned into divine light and returned to Qin Yu's body, and the 5 elements God slaughtering formation also dissipated. This battle made Qin Yu's reputation as a genius even more amazing. Du Qiao left the battle arena with a heart full of unwillingness. It wasn't until she asked the other heaven's prides that she understood the whole story. When Qin Yu shattered her defensive divine artifact, the moment the dazzling divine light burst out, he condensed 4 incarnations. He set up the 5 elements God slaughtering formation and then blasted her into it. After figuring it out, Du Qiao became more and more unwilling. If she could have avoided it, that girl from the everlasting sacred shrine lost completely because of her lack of combat experience. Indeed, if she had seen through Shun Feng's intentions before, she wouldn't have fallen into the 5 elements God slaughtering formation and lost to Shen Feng. That's not necessarily the case. With Shun Feng's combat experience, even if he lost this opportunity, I'm afraid he would still set up another trap and let that girl step into it. It seems that Heavenly Emperor Palace has put in a lot of effort to cultivate Shun Feng. Those Emperor Realm Masters commented on the battle just now. The other young Heaven's Prides looked up and down at Qin Yu. Many Heaven's Prides were more and more afraid of Qin Yu, who had endless means. This little brat can't be underestimated. The sacrificial evil god dynasty's divine son, Zheng Qingtian, looked at Qin Yu rather solemnly. "Heh, playing such boring means that his combat strength is only at that level." Crown Prince Kong Bitao heard this and sneered even more coldly. In the situation just now, if our cultivations were the same, how confident are you of winning? Zheng Qingtian asked. Kong Bitao's sneer stiffened, and he was about to speak when Zheng Qingtian said, "At most, I only have a 50% chance of winning." You think too highly of him." Kong Bitao snorted coldly and was not convinced. He, the dignified grandson of the evil god emperor and the crown prince of the divine dynasty, only had a 50% chance of winning against Qin. What a joke. Zheng Qingtian knew Kong Bi Tao's arrogance and did not say anything. However, when he looked at Qin, his eyes were filled with cold, murderous intent. The 50% chance of victory that he had mentioned earlier was actually an overstatement. Qin gave him a great sense of threat. If he was allowed to grow, he might become an existence like Shi Tiangang in the future. Woody, what do you think? Wan Tianya, the young sect master of the 10,000 martial sect, asked Wu Wudi through voice transmission. The younger generation of our martial sect might not be able to suppress him in the future. Wu Wudi pondered for a moment and said slowly, "What's there to be afraid of? We definitely won't be able to suppress him." Wan Tianya said directly, "Fortunately, we can still participate in the next battle. Heavenly Emperor Palace won't take the lead so quickly." Wu Wudi laughed. They existed in the 10,000 martial sect. In the past 2 spiritual state rankings, they had become the strongest of the 7 major powers. The second battle, Xianyuan Chixing versus Qing Tao. As the crowd discussed, the second battle began. Xianyuan Chixing's cultivation was that of a late-stage rank 7 martial emperor. Qing Tao, who came from mid-tier power, was only a rank 6 martial emperor. The battle ended without any suspense. Xianyuan Chixing won with a crushing advantage. Chapter 387. The third round, Yi Tianyu versus Lu Hao. Yi Tianyu, the crown prince of the heavenly spirit god dynasty, was fighting. Strictly speaking, Yi Tianyu was from the same generation as Sun Shiyu and the others. They were all rising stars from the previous tournament. Although he wasn't as famous as the 4 saints, his strength couldn't be underestimated. Lu Hao came from the Tianyang sacred land and was a true newcomer. This battle also ended without any suspense. That was because Yi Tianyu was also a rank 7 martial emperor. Although he was only an early rank 7 martial emperor, it wasn't surprising that he could crush Lu Hao, who was a rank 6 martial emperor. Lu Hao's aptitude was not bad. However, he did not have the power to surpass his level and fight enemies like Qin Yu and Yi Xiaoning. The fourth round, Wu Wudi versus Luo Sifang. Wu Wudi, one of the twin dragons of the 10,000 martial sect, was chosen. His opponent, Luo Sifang, was from the Arhut Palace. Luo Sifang didn't fight and directly forfeited. The fifth round, Jin Wushuang versus Zhuge Ming. This was another battle without any suspense. The Zhuge family had 3 people on the battle ranking. However, when facing Jin Wushuang, a prodigy of the older generation, he was defeated in a few moves. The sixth round, Sun Shiyu versus the Azure Lightning Emperor's majestic voice sounded from time to time. One battle after another came to an end very quickly, and then came to an end just as quickly. The first round of 50 battles passed quickly, except for the battle between Qin Yu and Du Qiao, which was exciting. The others were ordinary. The other battles appeared very ordinary. There was no suspense about the outcome of the battle. It was within everyone's expectations. No one had any outstanding performance against a strong opponent. The seventh round of the second round, Gu Hanmo versus Wan Tianya. Not long after the start of the second round, 2 older geniuses finally clashed. What made the spectators excited was that Gu Hanmo didn't forfeit against Wan Tianya. Gu Hanmo was the young master of the ancient Frost Island. He was ranked 26th in the previous tournament. Although he didn't qualify for the 9 states heaven ranking, he was highly favored by everyone this time. He was a candidate for the top 10. Wan Tianya was needless to say. He was the young master of the 10,000 martial sect and the descendant of the ancient divine king. He was ranked 8th in the previous tournament and was on the 9 states heaven ranking. Either title would make Wan Tianya the undisputed number 1 in this year's spiritual state war ranking list, and his fame was unparalleled. I thought you would conserve your strength and fight for the top 10. Wan Tianya leaped onto the combat arena and stood in midair with his arms crossed before his chest, and he revealed a wisp of a smile on his face. His relaxed expression was revealed without a doubt. The ancient frost demon was close to 20 feet tall. His body was covered in muscles that were clearly defined. He was like an iron pagoda as he stood there, giving off a powerful pressure. I will fight for the top 10. As for you, I also want to challenge you. A hint of battle intent appeared in Ancient Frost Mo's cold eyes. In the previous battle roll, he challenged the top 10 freaks of the older generation and was defeated by Wan Tianya and Wu Wudi. As a result, he was severely injured and his ranking dropped to 26th, failing to qualify for the heaven ranking of the 9 continents. Therefore, challenging Wan Tianya and Wu Wudi was Gu Hanmo's goal this time. After all, in the top 100 battle of the leaderboard, they would not be matched against each other again. It seems that your strength has improved greatly in the past 3 years. Sensing Ancient Frost Mo's battle intent, Wan Tianya only smiled faintly. Ancient Frost Mo did not waste any words. He formed hand seals with his hands, and an ancient black mark condensed between his eyebrows. Pitch black ancient runes spread throughout his body, seeping into his flesh and bones. An extremely terrifying aura erupted from Ancient Frost Mo, shattering the clouds. Rank 7 Martial Emperor. Late stage. Ancient Frost Mo's powerful cultivation was undoubtedly displayed at this moment. Everyone was shocked. Although Ancient Frost Mo was already a rank 7 Martial Emperor 3 years ago, he was still a rank 7 Martial Emperor. But now, the Ancient Frost Devil's aura was so powerful compared to 3 years ago. It was as if he had been reborn. It was not hard to imagine how Ancient Frost Mo's strength had changed. In the Martial Emperor realm, one's strength could undergo a transformation without breaking through their cultivation. It could be seen that Ancient Frost Mo still had shocking potential that had yet to be unearthed. This was also the reason why everyone was shocked. Not bad. Wan Tianya put down his arms and revealed an interested expression. Layers of air revolved around his body and rose up. Unseal, Ancient Frost Mo shouted, and an explosion resounded. The ancient runes that covered his body all exploded, turning into monstrous demonic chi that swept across the sky and shook the universe. In a monstrous demonic chi, a demonic figure that was more than 30 meters tall appeared. That's the soul of the ancient demon god. The rumor is true. Ancient Frost Mo really obtained the soul of the ancient demon god sealed in Ancient Frost Island. No wonder his strength has undergone such a huge transformation. With such strength, it's enough to fight for the top 3. Exclamations sounded. It had always been a legend that Ancient Frost Island had sealed the soul of the ancient demon god. Now it was finally confirmed. Wan Tianya, if you don't undo the seal, you will lose to me. Ancient Frost Mo's eyes that were filled with demonic chi looked at Wan Tianya, who was sizing up the soul of the ancient demon god with interest. Ancient Frost Mo could see that Wan Tianya was the same as him. He had sealed his cultivation and was consolidating his strength. Their goal was not simply to enter the Emperor realm, but to become a top-notch Emperor Realm Master. Therefore, when they were in the Martial Emperor realm, they would constantly consolidate and suppress their cultivation to hone their foundation. Come on, let me see just how powerful the legendary primordial demon god soul is. Wan Tianya heard this and smiled lightly, waving at Ancient Frost Mo. The aura around him grew stronger, but he still did not undo the seal. Ancient Frost Mo's eyes narrowed. Wan Tianya's relaxed expression was definitely not an act. Could it be that Wan Tianya was really confident that he could deal with him without undoing the seal? Xiao, although he thought about it, Ancient Frost Mo did not hesitate at all and suddenly charged out. His speed was so fast that everyone only saw a flash of demonic chi, and Ancient Frost Mo had rushed in front of Wan Tianya. Ancient Demon Slash. An ancient saber that was surrounded by demonic chi slashed across the sky, and a clear pitch-black crack appeared in the void. The moment Ancient Frost Mo slashed, The soul of the ancient demon god that accompanied the figure merged with the ancient saber with a vast demonic aura. Against Juan Tianya, ancient Frost MO did not test his strength at all. He went all out and destroyed his killing move. Just in time, Juan Tianya did not dodge at all. He clenched his right hand into a fist, and the air around him condensed on his right fist. 9 divine lights floated around his right fist, and an incomparably terrifying aura was emitted. Thousand Martial Sect's supreme secret technique, God King's 9 fists. The surrounding cultivators were familiar with the 9 divine lights floating around Juan Tianya's right fist. Juan Tianya, the descendant of the ancient God King, had the bloodline of the ancient God King. The God King's 9 fists was the secret technique left behind by the ancient God King. When this secret technique was comprehended to the peak, it could even shatter the sky. Juan Tianya was the descendant of the ancient God King and had the bloodline of the ancient God King. Naturally, he had grasped the God King's 9 fists. Chapter 388. Boom! Juan Tianya punched out, his divine might exploding. Waves of air rose in the air, and violent ripples appeared. Crack! The divine fist and the demonic fist collided in the blink of an eye. It was like a bolt of lightning striking through the air. Where the two of them clashed in the air, a spatial crack that was dozens of feet long appeared. The destructive shock wave that erupted was directly swallowed by the spatial crack. Juan Tianya and Gu Hanmo instantly sensed it and retreated. Boom! 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 But in the next instant, the two of them clashed again. Earth-shattering explosions rang out continuously. Every time they clashed, spatial cracks would appear in the air. It was enough to see how terrifying their attacks were. Gu Hanmo's combat strength is actually comparable to Juan Tianya's, as expected of the ancient demon god's soul. The increase in power is really terrifying. It seems that if Juan Tianya doesn't break the seal, it will be difficult for him to defeat Gu Hanmo. Seeing the intense battle between the two of them, the spectators were in heated discussions. Countless older martial emperors couldn't help but sigh at the changes in the times when they came to the spiritual state battle ranking. The growth of the new generation was too shocking. So you haven't completely controlled the ancient demon god soul. After another attack, Juan Tianya and Gu Hanmo faced each other from dozens of feet away. A smile appeared on Juan Tianya's face. As expected, I've been seen through. Gu Hanmo's eyelids twitched, but the battle intent in his eyes burned even more fiercely. Even if he hadn't completely controlled the ancient demon god's soul, Juan Tianya wouldn't be able to fight against him if he didn't break the seal. Although the battle just now seemed to be evenly matched, in reality, he had completely gained the upper hand. If this continued, Juan Tianya would definitely lose. Fine, I'll let you see the true 9 fists of the God King. Ancient and mysterious divine runes appeared on Juan Tianya's right fist. The 9 divine lights that were originally floating around his right fist suddenly rose into the air and became dozens of feet large, emitting dazzling divine light. What a powerful aura! Gu Hanmo raised his head and looked over, his face filled with shock. Countless spectators were also shocked. They had seen Juan Tianya use the 9 fists of the God King many times, but it was the first time they saw such a powerful 9 fists of the God King. 9 fists, demon and god obliteration. Juan Tianya's figure flashed and turned into a ray of divine light as he punched towards Gu Hanmo. As he punched out, the 9 beams of divine light that were dozens of meters long instantly merged into his right fist like 9 blazing suns. A monstrous destructive aura erupted. Demon God exterminating slash. Ancient Frost Demon's eyes were extremely solemn. He held the ancient sword tightly with both hands. The vast sea of Tao and true essence all merged into the ancient sword. Ancient Frost Demon was not afraid to fight. With a loud shout, he leaped high into the air and slashed down. Rumble. Their attacks met in the blink of an eye. The entire Sumeru realm trembled violently, as if the heavens were about to collapse. The next moment, it was accompanied by a violent and destructive impact. A figure spat out blood and flew backwards. His aura was weak and chaotic. It was ancient frost demon. The entire place was dead silent. Everyone was shocked. The ancient frost demon would lose. This was what everyone expected. However, Juan Tianya had managed to defeat the ancient frost demon, a rank 7 martial emperor that had fused with the ancient demon god's soul, without breaking the seal. If Juan Tianya went all out, how terrifying would his strength be? In this battle, no one could stop Juan Tianya's momentum of obtaining first place in the spiritual state war ranking. Even Zheng Qingtian, Jin Wushuang, Xin Yuan Chixing, and the other older generation geniuses had solemn expressions. Juan Tianya gave them immense pressure. However, among those geniuses, there were two who had rather calm expressions. One was Qin Yu, and the other was Yi Xiaoning. They did not show any emotions when facing Juan Tianya's battle prowess, as if they did not care at all. This brat is rather interesting. Juan Tianya did not pay attention to Yi Xiaoning, but he subconsciously glanced at Qin Yu. When he saw Qin Yu's calm expression, Juan Tianya revealed a smile. Juan Tianya was rather interested in Qin Yu, who was known as the person with the strongest potential in history. Of course, it was just interest. If Qin Yu wanted to be his opponent, he would have to at least reach the next war ranking. After the battle between Juan Tianya and the ancient frost demon, the following battles were clearly not enough to deal with. Although some of the battles were rather exciting, they were naturally overshadowed by the other geniuses. Second round, 34th battle, Yi Xiaoning versus Zhou Jianian. Finally, after the seemingly ordinary battles, another battle that everyone was looking forward to came. Yi Xiaoning, one of the superpowers, the 7th prince of the heavenly spirit god dynasty. Previously, he was unknown among the younger generation of martial emperors. However, ever since he started fighting, other than the older generation geniuses, he had been undefeated. Entering the top 100 of the war ranking with the cultivation of a rank 1 martial emperor was unprecedented in the history of the spiritual state war ranking. If it wasn't for Qin Yu's aptitude being too shocking, Yi Xiaoning would definitely be this year's #1 newcomer. Zhou Jianian, the 2nd princess of the Saint Divine dynasty. In the previous war ranking, she was ranked 31st with the cultivation of a rank 5 martial emperor. In the previous elimination rounds, other than the older generation geniuses in the top 30, she did not fight. As for the other geniuses in the top 30, they were all defeated by her. Zhou Jianian's cultivation was at least rank 6 martial emperor. Her battle power was astonishing. Now, Yi Xiaoning did not forfeit his battle against Zhou Jianian. This naturally caused countless people to look forward to it. Even Qin Yu turned to look at him. Now, it could be confirmed that Yi Xiaoning's forfeit in the elimination rounds was only to preserve his strength. Now that it was the ranking battle, Yi Xiaoning would most likely go all out. 7th Prince, long time no see. Zhou Jianian looked at Yi Xiaoning. She did not expect that Yi Xiaoning, who she thought had the most potential among the younger generation of the 3 great dynasties, would become so strong. After reaching the martial emperor realm, he soared to the sky and reached the stage where he could fight against her. Late stage rank 7 martial emperor, you are no match for me. Yi Xiaoning's gaze was as sharp as a sword as he saw through Zhou Jianian's strength. This brat. Zhou Jianian's heart suddenly jolted. Even in the Saint Divine dynasty, only a few people knew about her true cultivation. It was absolutely impossible for outsiders to know about it. Yi Xiaoning was actually able to tell the strength of her cultivation in one go. Late stage rank 7 martial emperor. That can't be right. Zhou Jianian's cultivation is that powerful. If that's truly the case, then Yi Xiaoning said that Zhou Jianian is no match for him. Doesn't that mean that Yi Xiaoning's true battle power is also comparable to a rank 7 martial emperor? Regarding that, let's wait and see. Hearing Yi Xiaoning's words, the countless spectators began to discuss heatedly. Begin. After the Cyan Lightning Emperor's voice left his mouth, Zhou Jianian immediately attacked. Streams of great Tao energy turned into invisible chains and swept toward Yi Xiaoning. It was as Yi Xiaoning had said, she was a late-stage rank 7 martial emperor. However, it was precisely because of that Zhou Jianian would not concede when facing the rank 1 martial emperor Yi Xiaoning. The one who should concede should be Yi Xiaoning. Chapter 389. Whoosh. Yi Xiaoning's gaze became sharper as he stepped out in the air with a mighty sword aura around him. The rusty iron sword in his hand slashed out casually, shattering the invisible chains that were attacking him. This sword aura. The Blue Lightning Emperor raised his eyebrows as he stared at Yi Xiaoning. Among all the sky prides present, Yi Xiaoning's strength was the one that surprised him the most. Qin Yu's battle prowess was also above his level, and he was undefeated. However, Qin Yu had used a secret technique to increase his cultivation. Yi Xiaoning, on the other hand, had relied on his cultivation of rank 1 martial emperor to fight until now. The Blue Lightning Emperor could not help but think of the monstrous geniuses from the Central Continent who came from the Supreme Orthodoxy. So far, he had only seen those monstrous geniuses from the Central Continent who had such talent. Sage ancient power. Zhou Jianian's eyes narrowed as her 10 fingers quickly formed seals. Mysterious ancient talismans appeared out of thin air. It was the Sage Divine Dynasty's ancient sage ancient power. After using the sage ancient power, Zhou Jianian's aura immediately skyrocketed, nearing the peak of rank 7 martial emperor. Suppress. Zhou Jianian shouted. Those ancient sage ancient talismans seemed to be sentient as they carried an incomparably vast ancient aura, trying to suppress Yi Xiaoning. Yi Xiaoning did not stop as he slashed out with his right hand. A sword aura slashed across the void. Those ancient sage ancient talismans that were trying to suppress Yi Xiaoning were all cut in half. How is this possible? Zhou Jianian's eyes widened in disbelief. The people from the Sage Divine Dynasty were also shocked. They knew very well how powerful the sage ancient power was. With the amplification of the sage's ancient power, Zhou Jianian had fought against rank 8 martial emperors without falling behind. But now it was cut in half by Yi Xiaoning's sword. Is the iron sword in Yi Xiaoning's hand a Dao Technique Emperor artifact? A prince from the Sage Divine Dynasty questioned. The Blue Lightning Emperor is supervising the battle. Not to mention a Dao Technique Emperor artifact, even an ordinary Emperor artifact would be detected by him. An Emperor Realm Master from the Sage Divine Dynasty said with a solemn expression. Could it be that Zhou Jianian will lose to Yi Xiaoning? This was a situation that they had never anticipated before. They had high hopes for Zhou Jianian, who wanted to rush into the top 10. That sword might is very strange. In the 10,000 martial sect, Wu Wudi looked at the rusty iron sword in Yi Xiaoning's hand. The sword chi from the iron sword contained an extremely terrifying destructive sword might, as if it could cut through everything. This kid is a little strange. Wan Tinya also raised his eyebrows. Qin Yu watched the battle quietly. Although Yi Xiaoning's battle strength had increased, he still did not use the heaven-burying sword principle. In the Sumeru realm, Yi Xiaoning stepped in the air, swinging his sword repeatedly to break through Zhou Jianian's attacks. When Yi Xiaoning reached a certain distance from Zhou Jianian, his footsteps paused. A deep sword light flashed in his eyes. Not good. At this moment, Zhou Jianian's expression changed drastically. A sense of impending death emerged in her heart. Without a second thought, Zhou Jianian immediately retreated. At the same time, his sage ancient power burst out like a tidal wave. Qila. However, it was too late. After Yi Xiaoning's footsteps paused, he suddenly turned into a sword light and flashed through the air. With a shattering sound, Zhou Jianian's sage ancient power was completely destroyed. In Zhou Jianian's narrowed eyes, a destructive sword light slashed down like lightning, as if it wanted to kill her. However, when the destructive sword light was only a few inches away from Zhou Jianian's forehead, A palm surrounded by azure lightning shot out without any warning and grabbed the iron sword, preventing it from moving any closer. It was the Azure Lightning Emperor. Yi Xiaoning wins. Azure lightning flickered and shattered the sword light. Under the shock of the crowd, the Azure Lightning Emperor announced Yi Xiaoning's victory. This battle had pushed Yi Xiaoning's reputation to a new height. A rank 1 martial emperor defeating a rank 7 martial emperor. What kind of heaven-defying battle strength was this? In the history of the spiritual state, had there ever been such a monstrous genius? At this moment, countless shocked gazes gathered on Yi Xiaoning. This was definitely a monstrous genius that had shocked both ancient and modern times. How can a rank 1 martial emperor be so powerful? The young master of the Xianyuan family, Xianyuan Wentian, had an expression of disbelief on his face. He was the strongest of the 4 great saints, so his target was the next spiritual state battle ranking. However, he naturally wanted to fight for the top 10 in this battle ranking. But now, Qin Yu, who had the greatest potential in history, had appeared. Now, there was a rank 1 martial emperor defeating the rank 7 martial emperor, Yi Xiaoning. This made him feel inexplicably pressured. Xianyuan Wentian was not the only one who felt pressured. Zhou Weian, Sun Shiyu, Tang Mingxin, and even the older generation of geniuses felt a huge impact. This year's newcomers were simply unbelievably strong. With Yi Xiaoning's strength, it won't be a problem for him to enter the top 20. He might even be able to enter the top 10. It might be a little difficult for him to enter the top 10. That's not necessarily true. From the current battle results and information, Wan Tianya and Wu Wudi of the 10,000 Martial Sect. Ancient Frost Demon and Qi Huanmei of the Ancient Frost Island, Xianyuan Chixing of the Xianyuan family, and Jin Wushuang of the Heavenly Sun Sacred Ground. Kong Bitao and Zheng Qingtian of the Sacrificial Evil God Dynasty. The 8 of them should be able to enter the top 10. If that's the case, there are only 2 spots for the top 10. Saintess Du Qiao of the Everlasting Sacred Ground, Zhuge Engfeng of the Zhuge family, Yin Xingxiao of the Great Spirit Palace, Pang Han of the 5 Ghost Sect. These are all popular candidates for the top 10. Didn't Du Qiao lose to Shenfeng? She should be eliminated. Although Du Qiao lost to Shenfeng due to carelessness, her strength is still top-notch among the older generation of geniuses. Didn't Du Qiao easily defeat Zhou Jianian in the last battle ranking? In short, there are too many geniuses in this battle ranking. In my opinion, other than Wan Tianya, who is undoubtedly the first, the rankings of the others could be surpassed at any time. Heated discussions broke out among the countless spectators. This battle was another heated battle after the battle between Wan Tianya and the Ancient Frost Demon, causing the spectators to be in an uproar. Those busybodies were already drawing up the rankings of the top 10 and top 20 geniuses. Amidst the heated discussions, the second round of the battle ranking ended quickly, and the third round began. Perhaps it was due to the influence of Qin Yu and Yi Xiaoning. The fighting spirit of this battle ranking was extremely high. Unfortunately, there were still too few monsters who could surpass several ranks and challenge the older generation of geniuses. Those older generation geniuses used victory after victory to show that their era had not passed, and the newcomers were still too inexperienced. 4th round, 7th match, Sun Shiyu versus Kong Mingwu. After a few matches in the 4th round, Sun Shiyu entered the arena. Her opponent was Kong Mingwu, the 12th prince of the Sacrificial Evil God Dynasty. Like Sun Shiyu, Kong Mingwu also participated in the spiritual state battle ranking in the last battle ranking. However, the result was a crushing defeat at the hands of Sun Shiyu, becoming a stepping stone for Sun Shiyu to become one of the 4 great geniuses. Chapter 390. Whoosh! Whoosh! Sun Shiyu and Kong Mingwu both leaped onto the battle stage. The conflict between the Heavenly Imperial Palace and the evil Sacrificial Godly Dynasty had heated up recently. The smell of gunpowder between them was very strong. They did not conceal their cold, killing intent and wantonly emitted it. You were lucky enough to win the last battle rankings. This time, I will definitely trample you under my feet. Kong Mingwu's eyes were very sinister as he emitted a mighty aura. Rank 7 Martial Emperor. The rules of the evil, sacrificial, godly dynasty were very strict. After losing to Sun Shiyu in the last battle rankings, he was severely punished. This caused Kong Mingwu to hate Sun Shiyu to the bone. This time, he vowed to wipe away his previous humiliation. I remember that you also said that you would trample me under your feet in the last battle rankings. Sun Shiyu said indifferently as halos of divine light revolved around her body. This time it's different. Kong Mingwu's eyes twitched as he shouted loudly. The sinister and sinister power turned into surging pitch-black fog that covered the sky and covered the earth as it pounced towards Sun Shiyu. The surrounding several hundred miles were completely covered by the black fog, not giving Sun Shiyu any space to dodge. It's indeed different. Sun Shiyu's eyes turned cold. Her figure flashed as she directly charged into the sinister and sinister black fog. Bang! In the next instant, an incomparably terrifying shockwave rushed out from the black fog. A figure was sent flying while vomiting blood. It was Kong Mingwu. Kong Mingwu was defeated in a single strike. When the black fog dispersed, Sun Shiyu, who was surrounded by divine light, appeared. The countless onlookers had yet to react, their gazes stupefied. The rank 7 Martial Emperor Kong Mingwu was no match for Sun Shiyu in a single strike. In a short 3 years, Sun Shiyu's strength had increased to such an extent. The result of this battle was completely out of their expectations. Because of the previous battle, the black fog had blocked their vision and interfered with their perception. Thus, the spectators did not know how Sun Shiyu had done it. However, there was no need to doubt Sun Shiyu's terrifying battle power. To be able to defeat a rank 7 Martial Emperor in a single strike, her battle power was already comparable to the older generation's geniuses. She might even be able to fight for the top 10. After winning, Sun Shiyu looked at Zheng Qingtian and Kong Bitao. Although he didn't say anything, his meaning was obvious. This year it was Kong Mingwu. Next year, it would be Zheng Qingtian and Kong Bitao. Useless trash. Zheng Qingtian's expression was normal, but Kong Bitao's face was extremely gloomy. Not long after Sun Shiyu's victory, Shi Jingtian entered the arena. His opponent was one of the 4 great saints, Tang Mingxin. Tang Mingxin's cultivation was also that of a rank 7 Martial Emperor. Shi Jingtian was defeated by a single strike. After that, Xinyuan Wentian and Zhou Yuan both won. The 4 great demons of the previous tournament had all become famous for their victories. 4th round, 46th match, Yi Tianyu versus Qi Huanmei. When the 4th round was about to end, another exciting and intense battle occurred. The crown prince of the heavenly spirit god dynasty, Yi Tianyu, against Qi Huanmei, an elder genius of the ancient Cold Island. Originally, everyone thought that the battle would end very quickly. But in the end, against Qi Huanmei, a heaven's favorite from the older generation, Yi Tianyu was not at a disadvantage at all. Bang! Qi Huanmei, who had ordinary facial features, had a serious expression on her face after she slapped out and extinguished the dozen or so fireballs that were whizzing towards her. Yi Tianyu's strength was extremely strong. He was not weaker than her. She had to give it her all to fight him. Innate demonic way. Qi Huanmei shouted in a low voice. A terrifying demonic aura emanated from Qi Huanmei's body and covered the sky. Qi Huanmei cultivated an ancient demonic art and had comprehended the innate demonic way. Now that she was using the ancient demonic art, her aura immediately changed. 9 spirits, divine fire. Seeing this, Yi Tianyu formed a seal with his hands. The spiritual fire burning on his body became even more ferocious. Vaguely, 9 different colors appeared. This was Yi Tianyu's natal divine fire that he had refined countless spiritual fires. It had the power to burn the sea. Boom! Qi Huanmei threw a punch at Yi Tianyu. The vast, innate, demonic power swept out like a river and was about to drown Yi Tianyu. 9 flames divine, killing array. Yi Tianyu pointed all 10 of his fingers. 9 beams of fire shot into the sky and scattered in 9 different directions. They then formed a huge 9-colored ancient flame array that was thousands of feet long. The power of the fire that could burn the sky and destroy the earth was released. The innate demonic power that swept across the sky was burned to nothing. That's the killing array left behind by the fire god. A surprised voice was heard. It was Tang Mingxin. He was born with a fire god constitution. Naturally, he had investigated the 2 fire gods in detail. He did not expect that such a rare killing array would be obtained by Yi Tianyu. What a terrifying aura! Qi Huanmei's expression changed. She felt a great threat from the 9 flames divine killing array. Bang! 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 Sure enough, in the next moment, a flaming giant formed in the 9-colored ancient flame array. The flaming giant slammed its palm down. A large area of the void was burned into a vacuum. Qi Huanmei, who was in the middle of the fire array, had nowhere to hide. She could only face the attack head-on. In the end, under the flaming giant's palm, Qi Huanmei vomited blood and flew backward. The power of the flaming giant was far beyond Qi Huanmei's expectations. Yi Tianyu wins. In this battle, it could be said that the junior had defeated the senior. This meant that Yi Tianyu had officially reached the level of the older generation's geniuses. He was qualified to be ranked in the top 10. After all, Qi Huanmei was previously considered to be a seed in the top 10. 4th round, 50th battle. Qian Yuming versus Jin Wushuang. After Yi Tianyu, Qian Yuming also encountered an older generation's genius, Jin Wushuang of the Heavenly Sun Holy Land. Snow Phoenix. After Qian Yuming stepped onto the stage, he immediately went all out. A loud phoenix cry sounded from his body. In the next moment, a bone-chilling coldness appeared. Snowflakes drifted down from the sky. Along with the appearance of the snowflakes, there was also a snow-white snow phoenix that was several hundred feet in size. That snow phoenix was not a physical body. It was only a soul. Qian Yuming was born with 2 souls. The second soul was the profound snow phoenix. The profound snow phoenix's cultivation was the same as Qian Yuming's, rank 7 martial emperor. In other words, Jin Wushuang was going to fight 2 rank 7 martial emperors by himself. Countless spectators discussed among themselves. However, no one questioned Qian Yuming. After all, the profound snow phoenix was his second soul. It was one with him. Naturally, it could be considered as his battle power. It was not an external force like his contracted battle beast. Battle body. Jin Wushuang's aura sank as a torrential battle intent appeared. Jin Wushuang's body was the ancient battle body. It was a spirit body that was comparable to an imperial body. Jin Wushuang had comprehended the inextinguishable battle intent. His battle power was extremely terrifying. Boom, boom, boom. Jin Wushuang and Qian Yuming began an intense battle. However, even with the help of the profound snow phoenix's soul, Qian Yuming was still no match for Jin Wushuang. Soon, he was at a disadvantage. Jin Wushuang's inextinguishable battle intent continued to stack on top of one another. It was as if an ancient battle god had appeared. Finally, after a quarter of an hour, Qian Yuming was defeated by a single punch. Even the profound snow phoenix was severely injured and returned to Qian Yuming's body. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.